If you're still awake right now, it's not because you're not tired, it's because you're still holding something, and the night has a way of making it heavier, every thought louder, every memory brighter, every fear more convincing. But listen, you don't have to win against your mind to rest. You don't have to wrestle the dark. You only have to stop carrying the day into it. Tonight, we're going to do something simple and powerful. We're going to set it down. The worry you keep gripping like a handle, the regret you keep rubbing like a bruise, the future you keep scanning like a horizon that never settles. And as you let go slowly, you'll feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Space. Welcome to the long night, where ancient Zen and Buddhist stories move like lantern light through the darkness, not to teach you more, but to soften you back into stillness. If this helps you feel even a little calmer, subscribe to the long night so it's here whenever you need it. Now, get comfortable. Let the bed hold your body the way the earth holds the mountains without effort. Let your shoulders fall, as if they've been forgiven. Let your face soften. Let your hands open, like you're finally done gripping the world. In a moment, the first story will begin, and you don't have to chase it. You don't have to understand it perfectly. Just let it come to you, the way sleep does quietly on its own. If your mind wanders, that's okay. If you drift, even better. Every time you notice you've wandered, you've already returned. So take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine placing everything you've been holding into the hands of the night. Not forever, just for tonight, just for tonight. And now, let's begin. There is a particular kind of tiredness that sleep alone doesn't fix. It happens to people who care deeply about others. Without even noticing, you begin to absorb the emotions of everyone around you. A friend calls up sad about their relationship, and later, you're the one lying awake, worrying about a marriage that isn't yours. A coworker shares their stress about a deadline, and suddenly your own body feels anxious, even though the project isn't even in your hands. Your adult child faces a challenge, and you feel the weight of their struggle as if it is your responsibility to solve. This is a gentle heart's hidden habit. It tries to carry what it loves. And in a monastery high in the mountains, there lived a young monk who had this exact problem. Every person who came to the temple seeking guidance would leave their emotional burdens with him. He would listen to their sorrows, their fears, their anger, and somehow those feelings would remain in his chest long after the visitors had gone. Night after night he lay awake, carrying the pain of dozens of people, confused by a compassion that seemed to be destroying his peace. One morning, exhausted and sincere, he went to his teacher. "Master," he said, "I try to help everyone who comes to me. I listen to their pain, I carry their worries, I lose sleep thinking about their struggles. But the more I try to help, the more exhausted I become. What am I doing wrong?" The teacher didn't argue with him. He didn't offer a lecture. He simply led the young monk to a well in the courtyard and pointed to the bucket beside it. "Tell me," the teacher said gently, "when you draw water from this well to give to a thirsty person, do you also drink the entire bucket yourself?" The monk blinked. "Of course not, master. I would give them the water and keep only what I need." The teacher smiled like someone opening a window. Then why, he asked, when someone brings you their emotional pain? Do you drink their entire bucket of suffering and leave them with empty hands? Something in the young monk loosened, because that is what many of us do. We think love means taking it all in. We think support means carrying it for them. But the result is predictable. The helper becomes depleted, and the person seeking help becomes dependent. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can offer compassion without absorbing pain. You can be present for someone's struggle without making it your own. You can listen with your whole heart without carrying their burden in your chest after they leave. The well doesn't become empty when it gives water, and your heart doesn't need to become empty when it offers love. Right now, as you hear this, notice your body. When you think about someone else's problems, do you feel a tightening in your chest, a clenching in the jaw, a pressure behind the eyes, a subtle urgency, like you must fix something immediately? Your body is wise. It will always tell you when you've crossed a line, from helping to carrying. In Buddhist understanding, every person has their own path to walk, their own lessons to learn, their own emotional weather to experience. When you try to take that away from them, you're not actually helping. You're interfering with their growth while exhausting your own spirit. It's like trying to breathe for someone else, impossible and harmful to both of you. There is a difference between empathy and absorption. Empathy allows you to understand and connect with someone's experience. Absorption means you take on their experience as if it were your own. One creates connection and healing, the other creates confusion and depletion. Imagine your energy is like sunlight. The sun doesn't become dimmer because it shines on flowers or on weeds. It simply radiates its warmth and lets each life respond in its own way. You can offer that same kind of presence, warm, steady, available, but not responsible for how someone else grows. In another village, there was an old woman known throughout the region for her incredible peace. People traveled for days to bring their troubles to her door. They arrived heavy with sorrow, and somehow left feeling lighter, clearer, more capable of handling their own lives. And what surprised everyone was this: she never seemed drained. Even after intense conversations, she returned to her garden with the same gentle smile. One day a visitor asked her secret. She pointed to a fountain she had built, water flowing constantly from a natural spring. "Watch the water," she said softly. "It flows to whoever needs it, the birds, the flowers, anyone who comes to drink. But notice the source. Does the spring become empty because it gives, or does it stay full? Because it only gives what naturally flows. This is the heart of healthy compassion. True giving doesn't deplete, because it comes from a source that refills itself. But when you try to give what you don't have, when you try to fix what isn't yours to fix, you create suffering for yourself and confusion for others. The spring gives water, not its entire underground source. You can give love, support, and presence without giving away your peace. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, and this includes attachment to other people's emotions. When you can't rest until they are okay. When your peace becomes dependent on their emotional state. You've moved beyond compassion into a subtle form of control, and then neither of you is truly free. So the practice is simple but not always easy. Notice the shift. Compassion feels spacious and open. It allows the other person to have their experience without needing to change it. Absorption feels cramped and urgent. It carries the undercurrent of this shouldn't be happening. I need to fix this right yo. Right now. In Buddhist practice, this is sometimes called loving detachment. It sounds contradictory until you feel it. It is in fact the most loving thing you can do. When you stop rescuing people from their feelings, you give them space to develop emotional strength. When you stop absorbing their pain, you stay clear enough to offer real wisdom rather than reactive sympathy. Think of the people who have supported you best. They were not the ones who panicked when you were upset. They were the ones who could sit with you in difficulty without drowning in it. They offered presence without trying to control your experience. This is what you're learning as you breathe now. Imagine releasing any emotions you've been carrying that don't belong to you, not with coldness, not with rejection, but with the understanding that returning these feelings to their rightful owner is an act of love, both for them and for you. Picture those borrowed emotions floating away like clouds moving across the sky. They are not being dismissed. They're simply returning to where they belong, and in the space they leave behind. Your own natural peace begins to emerge. This peace was always here, waiting beneath the weight you thought you had to carry. You are not responsible for other people's happiness. You are not responsible for protecting anyone from their feelings. You are not responsible for making sure everyone is okay before you can rest. What you are responsible for is your own presence, your own kindness, your own inner steadiness, and the paradox is beautiful. The more you tend your own inner garden, the more you have to offer others. Feel your shoulders drop slightly as this truth settles in. Feel your breathing deepen when you're no longer in rescue mode. And yet, even after you learn to stop carrying other people's emotions, there is often something else that keeps the mind spinning through the night, the way your thoughts replay moments from the day, long after they've ended. So now, we move to the next kind of weight. Not emotional weight, but mental stones. In the mountain monastery, the young monk did not look lazy. He looked kind. His eyes were gentle, his voice was soft. He bowed to everyone. He listened without interrupting. And when people spoke, they felt often for the first time that someone truly heard them. That is why they kept coming. Villagers climbed the stone steps with trembling hearts. Travelers arrived with grief in their bags. Even other monks sat beside him after evening chanting, confessing fears they had never spoken aloud. And each time the young monk did what many of us do when we love, he took their pain into himself, as if carrying it proved his sincerity. At first, he told himself it was compassion. He told himself this heaviness was the price of being a good person. But the nights became longer. He would lie down on his thin mat and the room would be quiet. Yet inside him there was a crowd. One man's anger would rise like smoke. A mother's worry would flutter in his chest like a trapped bird. A student's shame would press down on his ribs as if it were his own. His body began to show it. His shoulders lived slightly lifted as if bracing. His stomach tightened even when he had eaten nothing. His jaw ached from clenching in his sleep. And in the mornings, his mind felt foggy like a lamp covered in soot. Still, he continued. Because when you're a person who cares, there is a subtle fear. If I don't carry it, does that mean I don't love them? One morning after a night with almost no rest, he went to his teacher. The teacher was old, with hands that moved slowly, like a tree branch in gentle wind. He was drawing water in the courtyard. The rope creaking softly over the stone well. The monk bowed low. "Master," he said, "I don't know what's happening. People come to me with their suffering and I listen with my whole heart. I try to help them. But when they leave, their pain stays inside me. I carry it into the night. I can't sleep. I feel heavy. I feel full of everyone." The teacher did not look surprised. He only nodded as though he had been waiting for this question. He pointed to the well. "Come," he said. The monk stepped closer. The air near the stone was cool and damp. The teacher lowered the bucket, listened for the quiet splash, then pulled it up with steady patience. When the bucket surfaced, water shimmered in the sunlight like a living mirror. The teacher held it out. "Tell me," he asked softly, "when you draw water for someone who is thirsty, what do you do?" "I give it to them," the monk said. "And do you drink the whole bucket?" The monk blinked, confused. "No, master. I would drink only what I need." The teacher's eyes softened. "Then why," he asked, "when someone brings you their sorrow, do you drink their entire bucket of suffering and leave them with none of their own strength?" The words were gentle, but they landed like a bell. Because it was true. When someone came to the young monk with grief, he would take it from them. When someone came with fear, he would hold it for them. When someone came with anger, he would absorb it until they felt lighter, and he felt crushed. In doing so, he was not truly helping. He was turning compassion into a trade. "Give me your burden, and I will carry it so you don't have to." But suffering cannot be carried away like a bag. It must be understood. It must be met. It must be walked through by the one who owns it. The teacher lowered the bucket again and let it fill once more. "This well," he said, "does not chase anyone to drink. It does not force water into mouths. It simply offers." He placed the bucket down between them. "When someone comes to you in pain," he continued, "your job is not to drink it. Your job is to offer clarity." The monk looked down at the water, watching the small ripples settle. "How do I do that, master?" he asked. "How do I listen without taking it in?" The teacher lifted one finger. "First," he said, "you must know where their feelings end and where you begin." He held his palm over the bucket. "Pain has a flavor," he said. "It wants company. It wants to spread. It wants to be shared." The monk nodded because he had felt that. A frightened person could make a whole room anxious. An angry person could make everyone's body tense. A grieving person could make the air heavy. The teacher continued, "When you listen, keep your awareness in your own body like a mountain. Feel your feet. Feel your breath. Feel the space around a story." The monk listened carefully. "And when you notice yourself tightening," the teacher said, "that is your signal." He tapped the monk lightly on the chest. "Your chest tightening means you have begun to hold what isn't yours. Your jaw clenching means you have begun to fight their feeling. Your stomach knotting means you have begun to fear their pain." The monk swallowed. It felt painfully accurate. "Second," the teacher said, "remember this: people come to you because they want relief. But relief is not always the same as healing." The monk looked up. "If you take their burden," the teacher said, "they may feel better for a moment. But they will not learn how to carry their own life." He paused. "And if you carry everyone's life, you will lose your own." The wind moved through the courtyard, stirring the prayer flags above them. The sound was faint like breath. The monk's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from recognition, because deep down he already knew. He had confused love with self-sacrifice. He had mistaken absorbing pain for being spiritually mature. But the teacher was showing him a different kind of compassion, one that did not destroy the giver. "Try this," the teacher said. He picked up the bucket and poured a small amount of water into a cup, just enough. "This," he said, "is what you offer. Presence, warmth, a few clear words, a steady mind. Not your entire well, not your entire strength." He handed the cup to the monk, and when the conversation ends, he added, "You return to your breath, you return to your feet, you let the water fall back into the earth." The monk held the cup with both hands. The water was cool, real, simple. He understood something at last. You can be kind without being consumed. You can love without dissolving. You can help without carrying. And tonight, as you listen here in the dark, you can learn this too. Because not everything you feel belongs to you. Not every weight is yours to hold. So take one slow breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine setting down anything you've absorbed from others gently, respectfully, like placing a full bucket back beside the well. You are allowed to be compassionate, and you are allowed to be free. And now, we continue to the next story, the one about a woman, a spring, and the kind of giving that never runs dry. In the days that followed, the young monk began to practice what his teacher had shown him. He still listened, he still cared, but he learned to keep one part of his attention anchored in his breath, in his feet, in the steady, quiet center of his own body. And something changed. People still arrived with pain in their voices and tears in their eyes. Yet, when they left, the monk no longer felt emptied out. He felt clear. He was beginning to understand a truth that is easy to miss. Compassion is not the same as carrying, but not every lesson arrives inside a monastery. Sometimes it arrives as a simple image, a picture that the mind can return to again and again, especially at night. In a small village, far from the temple, there lived an elderly woman whom many called the peaceful one. She was not famous because she spoke beautifully or because she had studied many scriptures. She was famous because people felt calm in her presence. When grief visited a family, they would come to her. When anger split a household, they would come to her. When fear kept someone from sleeping, they would come to her. And what was strange was this. She never looked drained. Some who came to her would speak for hours, pouring out years of sorrow like a river breaking its banks. Yet when they left, she would simply return to her garden, humming softly as she watered her herbs. A traveler once asked her, "How do you do it? How do you hold so much for people without becoming heavy?" The old woman did not answer right away. Instead, she invited him to walk with her behind the house. There, hidden among stones and wild flowers, was a small fountain she had built. Clear water flowed continuously from a narrow opening in the rock. Not hurried, not forceful, just steady. The water gathered in a shallow basin, then spilled over into a small channel that fed the garden. Birds came to drink. Bees hovered near the dampness. Even stray cats would step quietly into the shade and watch the flow. The old woman sat beside it and motioned for the traveler to sit too. "Look," she said softly. The traveler watched the water. It moved without effort. It did not strain. It did not panic when the birds drank. It did not become angry when the wind scattered leaves into the basin. It simply flowed. The old woman asked, "Do you know where this water comes from?" "A spring," the traveler guessed. She nodded. "It comes from deep underground. It rises naturally. It gives what it has to give." She placed her hand near the stream, letting it cool her fingers. "Now tell me," she said, "when someone comes to me in pain, do you think I become their pain?" The traveler hesitated. He wanted to say yes because that is what many people believe compassion is. But as he watched the water, something inside him began to understand. He answered carefully, "No, you don't become it. You let something move through you." The old woman smiled. "Yes." She pointed to the spring again. "When I was younger," she said, "I thought love meant taking on other people's suffering. I thought kindness meant becoming heavy with their burdens." Her voice was gentle, almost amused, as if she was speaking about an old mistake. "And I became exhausted, bitter, even resentful because my goodness was costing me my peace." The traveler listened closely. Then one day she continued, "I realized something simple. If my compassion makes me collapse, it is not compassion, it is confusion." She picked up a small cup from beside the fountain and filled it. "Watch," she said. She poured the water into the garden soil. The earth drank it in. "Did the spring become empty?" she asked. "No," the traveler said. "It keeps flowing," she replied, "because it gives what naturally flows, not what it must force." Then she said the line that stayed with the traveler for the rest of his life. "Real compassion is like a spring. It offers, it nourishes, but it does not abandon its source." In Buddhist teaching, this is sometimes called non-attachment, but many people misunderstand the word. They think it means not caring. But what it really means is this: you care fully, without needing the other person's emotions to change in order for you to be okay. You love deeply, without making their pain your personal responsibility. You help sincerely, without turning their journey into your burden. This is loving detachment, and it is not cold. It is not distant. It is actually the kindest thing you can offer, because it gives the other person space to meet their own life, and it gives you the strength to stay present. The old woman said, "When someone comes to me, I listen. I let their story be heard. I let their feelings be felt." She looked at the traveler as if to make sure he understood. "But I do not take their feelings into my body as a home." She pointed lightly to her chest. "My body is not a storage room for other people's storms." The traveler felt something shift, because this is what so many gentle hearts have done for years, quietly, unconsciously. They have turned themselves into storage rooms. And then at night, when the world finally becomes silent, the stored storms begin to speak. So here is a practice you can do right now without effort. As you breathe in, quietly say to yourself, "I can care," without carrying. As you breathe out, whisper inside, "Not mine to hold." Again, gently inhale, "I can care," without carrying. Exhale, "Not mine to hold." Notice what happens in the body. Often the shoulders drop, the jaw loosens, the belly softens, because your body has been waiting for permission to stop bracing. Now imagine the people you love one by one, like faces appearing softly in your mind. You can send them kindness, you can wish them well, you can even pray for them. But you do not need to pick up their pain and strap it to your back. Let your love be like the spring, steady, quiet, available. And when the conversation ends, when the phone call finishes, when the message has been answered, you return to your source. You return to your breath. You return to the simple truth of this moment. Right now in this room, you are safe enough to rest. The traveler stayed by the fountain for a long time, not because he was trying to understand a philosophy, but because his nervous system was learning a new language. The language of gentle boundaries, the language of compassion without absorption. And as he listened to the water, he realized something that might help you tonight. Peace is not selfish. Peace is the soil where true kindness grows. So if you have been carrying what isn't yours, if you have been holding other people's storms inside your chest, you can set them down now. Not with rejection, with respect, with love. Because when you stop carrying what isn't yours, you become lighter. And in that lightness, sleep becomes possible. Take one slow breath in, and as you breathe out, let the spring inside you flow, and let everything else return to where it belongs. Now, we turn to the next kind of weight. Not the emotions you absorb from others, but the thoughts you replay in your own mind again and again like stones in your pocket. And that is where chapter 2 begins. Now that you've begun to set down what isn't yours, there is another weight that keeps many people awake. It doesn't come from other people. It comes from your own mind looping, replaying, rehearsing. The day ends. The room grows quiet, and yet inside you the scene continues. A conversation you wish you could redo. A sentence you should have said differently. A look on someone's face that you can't stop interpreting. A task you forgot. A mistake that feels bigger at midnight than it did in the afternoon. This is what it means to carry mental stones. They are not dramatic, not loud, but they are heavy. And the strange thing is, you might not even notice you're carrying them until you try to rest. Your body lies down, but your mind stays standing. In Zen, there is an understanding that the mind loves to complete unfinished shapes. It wants to close open loops. It wants certainty. It wants to fix. So when something feels unresolved, the mind returns to it again and again, as if repetition will create a different ending. But rumination is not resolution. It's a revolving door. You walk through the same memory, the same fear, the same what if, and you come out exactly where you began, except more tired. If you've ever noticed this at night, you're not alone. The mind is a talented storyteller, especially in the dark. It can take one small moment, one awkward pause, one slightly sharp tone, and expand it into an entire identity. Why did I say that? What do they think of me? What if I ruined everything and suddenly a single stone becomes a sack? So let's slow down and notice the pattern with gentleness. Rumination usually wears one of these masks. Rewind, if only I had. Rehearsal, next time I will. Prediction, this is going to end badly. Judgment, I shouldn't be like this. Control, I must figure this out now. And underneath all of them is one ache: I don't feel safe with uncertainty. So the mind tries to build safety out of thinking. But thinking cannot build the kind of safety the nervous system needs. It can only build more thinking. This is why even when you understand something, you still can't sleep. Because understanding is often happening in the head, while the body remains braced. And that bracing has a signature. Notice right now, just gently, how your body reacts when a thought loop begins. Maybe your chest tightens as if preparing for impact. Maybe your belly hardens as if guarding something. Maybe your throat narrows, your breath becomes shallow. Maybe your forehead tightens like you're trying to squeeze an answer out of the night. These are the body's ways of saying, we are still working, we are still on duty. But the night is not asking you to work. The night is asking you to release. In Buddhist practice, there is a simple distinction that helps here. There is useful reflection, and there is endless replay. Useful reflection is brief and clear. It learns what it needs to learn, then returns to the present. Endless replay is sticky and circular. It doesn't learn, it punishes. It doesn't solve, it tightens. So the first step tonight is not to stop thinking. That tends to create a fight, and fights keep you awake. Instead, the first step is to recognize a loop is a loop, not a prophecy, not an emergency, not an instruction, just a loop. And when you recognize it, you create a small space between you and it. In Zen, this is called stepping back, not away from life, but away from identification. Because a thought can appear without becoming your commander. Here is a gentle practice you can do right now in your bed. When you notice a looping thought, don't argue with it. Don't chase it. Don't obey it. Just name it softly, like you're labeling a cloud, replaying, or rehearsing, or worrying. That's it. Then return to one simple anchor. The feeling of the breath entering and leaving. You are not using the breath to force the thought away. You are using the breath to remind your nervous system, we are here. We are safe enough. We can rest. Because the body learns safety through sensation, not through analysis. And this is where many people get trapped. They keep trying to think their way out of a feeling. But feelings dissolve through being met, not through being solved. So tonight you are learning a new relationship with your mind. Not a war, a gentle retraining, like teaching a restless animal to settle, not by yelling, but by calm presence. If your mind brings up something important, something genuinely needing action, you can simply tell it. Not now, tomorrow, and then come back to the bed, to the breath, to the weight of your blanket. Because urgency is one of the mind's favorite tricks. It insists that everything must be handled immediately. But most things are not improved by midnight. Most things are improved by sleep. Imagine your mind is carrying a pocket full of stones. Each stone is a thought, a regret, a plan, a fear, a conversation. You don't have to throw them away in anger. You don't have to judge yourself for holding them. Just open your hand one by one, not forever, just for tonight. And as you set them down, you may notice something surprising. A quieter space begins to appear behind the thinking. A simple stillness already here. In the next part, we'll enter a story that makes this lesson unforgettable. A story of two monks and a single moment at a river. A moment one of them carried for hours, even after it was already over. There is an old Zen story that has been passed down for generations, not because it is clever, but because it is painfully human. Two monks were traveling on foot through the countryside. The sun was high, the path was dusty, and the day was long. They had been walking for hours in silence, the kind of silence that only comes after many miles when words begin to feel unnecessary. As they approached a river, they saw a young woman standing at the edge of the water. Her clothing was fine and her sleeves were carefully folded as if she had somewhere important to be. But the river was swollen from recent rain, moving fast and cold. She looked at the monks and hesitated. In that tradition, monks had strict rules. They were not to touch women. They were not to linger. They were to keep their discipline clean like a robe without stain. The woman spoke softly. "Sirs, "Would one of you help me cross?" The younger monk froze. His body tightened as if an alarm had sounded inside him. The older monk, however, did not hesitate. He stepped toward the water, bent down slightly, and said, "Of course." Then, with simple steadiness, he lifted the woman onto his back. He entered the river. The current pressed against his legs, but he moved carefully, placing each foot where the stones were firm. The woman held her breath. The younger monk watched with wide eyes, his mind already racing. When the older monk reached the other side, he gently lowered the woman to the bank. She bowed deeply, thanked him, and walked away, her footsteps light as if a problem had just dissolved. The two monks continued on their path. For a while there was no sound except their sandals on the dirt road, but inside the younger monk sound was building, a voice, a protest, a storm. After an hour he could not hold it anymore. "Brother," he burst out, "how could you do that?" The older monk kept walking. "We are forbidden to touch women." The younger monk continued his words, speeding up as if chasing something. "We have vows, rules, discipline, and you carried her on your back." The older monk did not look angry. He did not argue. He simply walked on. But the younger monk's mind was now fully awake, fully lit, fully inflamed. He kept talking. People could have seen. What if someone reports you? What if your reputation is damaged? What if the temple hears of this? What if his voice trailed off only because he ran out of breath? They walked another hour, then another. The sun began to lower. The shadows stretched long across the path. Still, the younger monk's chest remained tight. The older monk finally stopped beside a tree and turned. He looked at the younger monk with gentle clarity. "Brother," he said, "I set that woman down at the river hours ago." He paused. "Why are you still carrying her?" The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. The younger monk suddenly realized what he had been doing. He had not carried the woman with her body, but he had carried her with his mind. He had carried the image, the rule, the judgment, the fear of consequence, the need to be right, for hours, long after the moment had ended. This is what the mind does. A single moment happens, and then it is gone. But the mind refuses to let it go. It keeps dragging the moment into the present, replaying it, analyzing it, polishing it, condemning it, defending it. And each replay feels like responsibility, but it is actually just carrying. So when you find yourself awake at night, carrying a conversation from earlier in the day, carrying a mistake from last week, carrying a fear from last year, remember the older monk's question. I set it down hours ago. Why are you still carrying it? There's a sharp compassion in that question. Not shame, not scolding, a reminder. Because most of what we carry mentally is already over. The words were spoken, the message was sent, the moment passed, yet the mind keeps holding it like a hot coal. And here is the painful irony. The mind thinks holding it will prevent future pain, but holding it is the pain. The Buddha taught that suffering is not only in what happens, but in the clinging that follows. This story reveals clinging in a form we rarely notice, clinging to moral perfection, clinging to I should, clinging to they shouldn't, clinging to control, even clinging to being the good one. The younger monk wasn't only upset about a rule. He was upset because the world had become uncertain. His mind wanted a clean line, right and wrong, pure and impure, safe and unsafe. But life at the river was not clean. Someone needed help. The older monk responded to reality, then released it. The younger monk refused reality, then carried it for hours. This is the difference between response and reaction. A response is direct and complete. It meets the moment, then ends. A reaction continues. It echoes. It repeats itself like a bell that won't stop ringing. So tonight, as you lie here, if your mind brings up a river from your past, a scene you keep replaying, you can practice what the older monk embodied. Meet the thought, and then set it down, not by force, by seeing that it has already ended. Try this gently. Bring to mind one small thing your mind has been carrying, a conversation, a worry, a moment you keep returning to. Now ask quietly inside, is this happening right now? If not, then you can say, I set it down. Again, I set it down. And feel your shoulders soften slightly as if they just heard permission. Because you do not need to carry the river into your bed. You do not need to carry this woman into the night. You can be like the older monk, clear, kind, and free. In the next part, we will deepen this lesson with a second image, a temple bell whose sound fades naturally, and how your thoughts can learn to fade the same way when you stop striking them again and again. After the story of the two monks, there is a simple image that many Zen teachers return to again and again because it shows the mind's habit with almost painful clarity. A bell is struck. For a moment, the sound is strong. It fills the air. It vibrates through wood and stone. It seems to exist everywhere at once, and then it fades. Not because the bell tries to stop, not because someone forces the sound away. It fades because that is the nature of sound. It rises, it lingers, it dissolves. One evening in a temple, a student approached an old teacher after meditation. Master, the student said, my mind will not become quiet. I sit and I breathe, but my thoughts keep appearing. I try to push them away, but they return. I try to control them, but they become louder. What should I do? The teacher did not answer directly. He walked to the center of the hall where a bronze bell rested on a wooden frame. Without ceremony, he lifted the mallet and struck it once. The sound rolled through the temple, deep, clear, unavoidable. The student listened. The teacher said, "Now, make it stop." The student looked confused. "How stop the sound?" the teacher repeated. The student tried to do what the mind always tries to do. He tensed his body. He concentrated. He silently commanded the sound to end. But the sound did not obey him. It simply continued, and then slowly began to fade. The teacher watched the student's face. Then he asked, "Did you notice?" The student frowned. "Notice what? That the sound ends by itself," the teacher said, "and yet you are trying to end it." The student was quiet. The teacher struck the bell again, once. Again the sound rose and filled the space. Then the teacher said something small, almost casual. "Thoughts are like this." He looked at the student gently. "A thought arises. It vibrates through you. It seems to fill your whole world. Then it fades." The student shook his head. "But my thoughts don't fade. They keep coming." The teacher nodded. "They keep coming because you keep striking them." The student blinked. The teacher continued. "When a thought appears, you pick up the mallet. You strike it with attention, with fear, with argument, with interpretation. You hit it again with, 'Why did I do that?' Again with, 'What if?' Again with, 'This shouldn't be happening.'" He paused. "And then you complain that the sound is loud." This is the heart of rumination. The first appearance of a thought is often natural, like the first ring of the bell. But the replay is what keeps it vibrating. It is not the thought that traps you. It is the second strike, the third, the 10th. So the practice is not to stop thoughts from arising. The practice is to stop striking them, to let the sound fade. Imagine a thought appears tonight, a memory, a worry, a plan, a criticism. That thought is the bell being struck once. Now notice what happens next. Do you lean in? Do you tighten? Do you start solving? Do you begin building a story? That is the mallet. Zen practice is learning to put the mallet down, not with force, but with understanding. Because the moment you stop feeding a thought with repeated attention, it begins to fade on its own, just like the bell. This does not mean you become careless. It means you become wise about timing. The night is not the time for solving your life. The night is the time for returning to the body, returning to breath, returning to the simple truth that you are here. There is another way to say this very simply. Remove the heat from the boiling water. When water boils, it isn't bad. It's just being heated. Your mind isn't wrong for being active. It's just being heated by stress, by fear, by unfinished things. So instead of yelling at the water to stop boiling, you turn down the flame. You remove the heat, and the mind begins to settle naturally. Tonight you can do that in a small, practical way. When a thought appears, do not chase it. Do not fight it. Just notice it, like you notice a sound. Then return to your anchor, one gentle sensation. The weight of your blanket, the feeling of your pillow, the coolness of air at the nostrils, the softness of the exhale. If the thought returns, that's okay. Don't be angry. Just recognize I picked up the mallet, and then put it down again, over and over without punishment. Because every time you put it down, you are teaching your nervous system a new skill, not reaction, not replay, release. In some temples, there is a tradition. After the bell is struck, no one speaks. They simply listen until the sound is gone. Not because silence is holy, but because listening to the fading teaches a deep truth. Everything fades when it is not fed. Your thoughts too can fade, not all at once, not perfectly, but enough. Enough for the mind to become quieter, enough for the body to feel safe enough for sleep to return. So, tonight if you find yourself trapped in a loop, remember the bell. A thought rings, you listen, and you let it fade. No second strike, no third strike, just the natural dissolving. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, feel the mallet leaving your hand. Let the bell ring once and fade. Let the water cool. Let the mind settle. And now as Chapter 2 closes, we step into the next lesson. One that loosens the deepest knot of all our grip on outcomes, and our need to know how everything will turn out. That is where Chapter 3 begins. Now that the mind is learning to stop replaying the past, it often reaches for a different strategy to feel safe. It tries to control the future. This is one of the most common reasons people cannot rest. Your body is tired, but your mind keeps scanning the horizon, asking what happens next. What if it goes wrong? What if I'm not ready? What if I lose something? What if I make the wrong choice? At night, these questions become sharper because darkness makes uncertainty feel larger, and beneath the questions is something very tender, a wish to be protected. The mind believes that if it can predict the outcome, it can prevent pain. So it rehearses, calculates, prepares, and worries as if worry is a kind of armor. But worry is not armor, it is weight, and when you carry it, the future does not become safer. Only your present becomes smaller. Zen and Buddhism do not ask you to stop panning. They ask you to stop clinging. Because planning can be wise. Clinging is exhausting. Planning says I will do what I can. Clinging says it must turn out the way I want or I cannot be okay. And this is where suffering begins. Outcomes are not fully yours. You can choose your actions, you can shape your intentions, you can plant seeds, but you cannot control the weather. You cannot control other people's hearts. You cannot control time change or the mysterious unfolding of life. Still, the mind tries. It tightens its grip on a future that has not arrived yet and then wonders why the present feels tense. If you pay attention, you can feel this in the body. The need to control often shows up as a shallow, guarded breath. A tightness across the chest, a constant check-in feeling in the mind, a restless energy in the hands and jaw, an inability to fully relax, even in bed. It is as if the body is saying, I cannot rest, I'm on watch, and yet no amount of watching can guarantee what tomorrow will bring. There is a quiet humility in Zen to accept that life is larger than your plans. Not as defeat, but as relief. Because when you stop trying to carry the whole future in your head, you create space to live. You may have noticed something in your own life. Sometimes the outcomes you feared never happen, and sometimes the outcomes you wanted most did not arrive. Yet life still continued, and you still found your way. Often, what you thought would destroy you became a turning point, and what you thought would save you became a lesson. This is why Zen teachers warn us about judging too early. The mind wants quick conclusions. This is good. This is bad. This will ruin me. This will make me happy. But life is not a single moment. It is a long unfolding, and the same event can become many different things over time, depending on how you meet it. Tonight you are learning to hold your life with open hands, not careless hands, not indifferent hands, open hands, because open hands can respond, they can adjust, they can receive, they can release. Clenched hands can only hold. So here is the first soft practice of Chapter 3. When your mind insists on knowing how something will turn out. Notice the insistence. Then very gently say to yourself, I can act without clinging. Again, I can act without clinging. Let that sentence drop into your chest like warm water. Because this is the balance Buddhism points to. Do what you can. Then release what you cannot. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you stop turning care into control. It means you stop demanding certainty from a world that is alive. There's another image for this. Imagine holding a small bird. If you hold it too loosely, it may fly away before it's ready. If you grip it too tightly, you harm it. The right way is gentle, secure enough to be safe, soft enough to breathe. This is how you hold your life. Secure enough to act wisely, soft enough to allow change. Tonight, if you are carrying a specific outcome in your mind, a decision, a result, a relationship, an uncertain future, you can practice loosening your grip, not by forcing yourself to stop caring, but by remembering the future is not a contract, it is a river. You can steer some. You cannot command the current, and strangely, when you stop fighting the current, you often find you move with more grace. The mind may ask, but what if it goes wrong? And the deeper answer is not a prediction. The deeper answer is trust. Even if it goes wrong, you will meet it. Even if it hurts, you will breathe. Even if you fall, you will learn. This trust is not naive. It is grounded. It comes from remembering that you have survived every day you've lived so far. So as you rest tonight, you can put down the future for a while. You don't have to solve tomorrow at midnight. You don't have to hold every possible outcome in your mind like a map. Just for tonight, let life be larger than your plans. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, soften your grip on the outcome you've been carrying. In the next part, we'll enter a story that teaches this more deeply than any explanation can. The story of a farmer, a horse, and the simplest words of wisdom. Maybe so, maybe not. In a small village long ago, there lived an old farmer who was known for his calm. He was not calm because his life was easy. His life was like everyone else's, full of weather and uncertainty, loss and gain. But the villagers could never understand him, because no matter what happened, his face stayed gentle. One morning, the farmer's horse broke free from its pen and ran into the hills. In that village, a horse was not a small thing. It was work, it was travel, it was survival. When the villagers heard the news, they rushed to the farmer's house. They found him standing in the yard quietly, repairing a piece of rope. "How terrible," they said. "Your horse has run away. This is very bad luck." The farmer looked up and his voice was calm, as if he were commenting on the wind. "Maybe." "So," he said. "Maybe not." The villagers stared at him. "Maybe not." How could losing a horse be anything but bad? They shook their heads and went back to their homes, certain the farmer was either foolish or in denial. But a few days later, something unexpected happened. The horse returned, and it did not return alone. Behind it ran 6 wild horses, strong and fast, following as if they had decided the farmer's stable was now their home. The farmer's yard suddenly held wealth the villagers could hardly imagine. The villagers came again this time, excited, smiling, full of praise. "How wonderful," they cried. "What incredible luck. Now you have 7 horses." The farmer stroked the neck of his returned horse and said as calmly as before, "Maybe so, maybe not." Again, the villagers were confused. How could gaining 6 wild horses be anything but good? But the farmer did not celebrate like a man who believed the future was guaranteed. He simply continued his work. Soon after, the farmer's son began training one of the wild horses. The animal was powerful and untrained, and the boy, eager to prove himself, pushed too quickly. The horse bucked. The son fell hard, his leg broke. In that era, a broken leg was not only painful, it could change a family's entire life. The villagers came again now with sorrow. "How heartbreaking," they said. "Your son is injured. This is terrible luck." The farmer sat beside his son's bed, adjusting the blanket gently. "Maybe so," he said. "Maybe not." By now, the villagers were almost irritated. They wanted him to agree. They wanted him to label life clearly, good or bad, blessing or curse. But he would not. A week later, soldiers arrived in the village. A war had begun, and they were conscripting young men to fight. They went from house to house, taking sons, brothers, husbands, anyone strong enough to hold a weapon. Families wept. Mothers clung to door frames. Fathers argued and pleaded. But the soldiers did not soften. When they reached the farmer's home, they looked at the boy's broken leg and waved their hands. "This one cannot go," they said, and they left. The villagers gathered afterward, shaken. "Your son was spared," they said. "How lucky. This injury saved him." The farmer looked at his son alive, safe, resting, and spoke in the same quiet way he always did. "Maybe so, maybe not. Not because he was cold. Not because he couldn't feel. but because he understood something the villagers could not yet grasp. Life is too wide to judge from one moment. What looks like misfortune today may become protection tomorrow. What looks like fortune today may become difficulty later, and the mind suffers because it keeps trying to decide too soon. At night, the mind does this constantly. It takes one event, one message, one silence, one mistake, and stamps it with a label. This is bad. This means I'm doomed. This will never work out. This proves something about me. Then it carries that label like a verdict, replaying it again and again. But the farmer shows us a different way to leave the verdict open, to let the story continue. This is not passivity. This is wisdom, because when you lock an event into good or bad, you also lock yourself into fear or craving. Fear says I must avoid the bad at all costs. Craving says I must secure the good at all costs. Both tighten the body, both steal sleep. The farmer's phrase, maybe so maybe not, loosens the grip. It does not deny reality. A horse did run away. Wild horses did arrive. A son did break his leg. A war did begin. Reality remains. What changes is the mind's need to finalize what it means. And when you stop finalizing meaning too soon, something in you relaxes. Because you no longer have to solve the entire future from a single scene. Tonight, if there is something your mind keeps gripping, an outcome, you fear an outcome, you want a moment, you keep judging, try the farmer's practice. Not as a slogan, as a gentle release. Bring the situation to mind. Then softly whisper inside, maybe so, maybe not. Say it again with a slow exhale, maybe so, maybe not. Feel how it creates space. Not space to give up, but space to breathe. Because when you can't be okay unless the outcome is certain, you become a prisoner of uncertainty. But when you can hold uncertainty with openness, you become free enough to rest. The villagers wanted the farmer to be like them, reactive, certain, emotionally pulled by every swing of fortune. But the farmer belonged to something deeper, the long view. He trusted life's unfolding more than the mind's quick conclusions. And this is exactly what you're practicing now. Not indifference, clarity, a wider heart. So let the stories of your day remain unfinished tonight. Let the labels fall away. Let tomorrow reveal more than your mind can predict at midnight. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, loosen the verdict you've been carrying. Maybe so, maybe not. In the next part, we will deepen this open-handed living even further with more images and stories that teach the same lesson, that what you call good and bad is often only the first chapter, not the whole book. The farmer's words, maybe so maybe not, are simple, but they point to a much larger way of living. Because the mind doesn't only cling to outcomes, it clings to interpretations. It wants to conclude, to label, to decide quickly so it can feel safe. And this is why we suffer so often. We judge the middle of the story as if it were the end. A door closes and we call it rejection. A plan changes and we call it failure. A relationship shifts and we call it loss. But life keeps unfolding, and what we label as bad is sometimes a redirection. What we label as good is sometimes a distraction. What we label as the end is often only a turn. In one region there was a potter whose hands were famous. His bowls were simple, but they held a kind of quiet beauty. People said he shaped clay the way a monk shapes a breath, slowly with reverence. One evening after a long day at the kiln, he returned home to find his shelves trembling. The earth shook. A small earthquake rolled through the village. Jars clinked. Wood creaked. Dust fell from the rafters. When the shaking stopped, the potter ran to his workshop. Several bowls had fallen and shattered. The potter stood in the doorway, looking at the broken pieces scattered like pale shells on the floor. A neighbor rushed in. "Oh no," the neighbor cried. "Your work, this is terrible." The potter didn't deny the loss. He simply knelt down and touched a shard with his fingertips. He said quietly, "Let's see what this becomes." The neighbor frowned. "Becomes it's broken." The potter gathered the pieces carefully into a basket. Over the next days, he crushed them into powder and mixed them into fresh clay. When he shaped new bowls, tiny flecks of the old pottery remained inside the new body like a history held gently, not erased. When those bowls came out of the kiln, they had a texture no one had seen before. The surface caught light differently. The form felt deeper, more alive. People began asking for the bowls with the flecks, the ones that looked as if they carried the memory of the earth. What the neighbor called terrible became the beginning of the potter's most loved work. Not because the earthquake was good, but because life continued. And the potter did not cling to one outcome as the only possible beauty. Another teacher once offered a different image. A student came to him frustrated by how chaotic life felt. "Everything is changing," the student said. "Plans collapse, people shift. I can't keep control." The teacher led him outside to a field where a twisted tree grew. The tree leaned strangely, shaped by years of wind. Its trunk was not straight. Its branches did not rise evenly. The student looked at it and said, "It's deformed." The teacher sat beneath it. "Look again," he said. The student watched longer. The crooked branches created thick shade. In that shade, small plants had taken root. Birds nested safely where predators couldn't reach easily. In the heat of summer, travelers rested under that strange shape, grateful. The teacher said, "If this tree were perfectly straight, it would have been cut down long ago." The student was quiet. The teacher continued, "Sometimes what you call imperfect is exactly what keeps you alive." Zen is full of reminders like this, not to romanticize hardship, but to loosen the mind's rigid need for life to look a certain way. Because a rigid mind suffers even when nothing is wrong. It suffers simply because reality refuses to match its demands. So how do you practice holding outcomes lightly? Here is the most human answer. You hold them the way you hold a butterfly. If you grip too tightly, you harm it. If you don't hold it at all, it flies away. But if you hold it gently, hands open, soft, respectful, the butterfly can rest there for a moment, and then it leaves when it is ready. This is how you hold your plans. This is how you hold relationships. This is how you hold the future. You give your best effort. You love sincerely. You take wise steps, and then you soften your grip on the result. Because clinging does not create security, it creates tension. And tension is what keeps you awake. Tonight, if your mind is gripping a specific outcome, an answer you wanna, fear you can't stop touching, a timeline you're demanding, try the butterfly practice. Imagine your hands opening slightly on the exhale, not dramatically, just a small release. As you breathe in, you can say, "I will do what I can." As you breathe out, "And I will release to rest." Again, gently inhale, "I will do what I can." Exhale, "And I will release the rest." Notice how the body responds when the future is no longer being strangled. Often the chest loosens first, then the belly, then the forehead. Because your nervous system recognizes something truthful. You were never meant to hold everything. The potter did not control the earthquake. But he met what happened and allowed beauty to emerge anyway. The crooked tree did not control the wind, but it became shelter. The farmer did not control the horse, but he refused to imprison life inside a verdict. These are not stories of passive people. They are stories of people who stopped fighting reality. And when you stop fighting reality, you conserve energy. That energy becomes clarity, and clarity becomes peace. Now, with chapter 3 complete, we move toward an even deeper kind of weight, the weight of regret, and the mind's longing to rewrite the past. Because sometimes we don't cling to the future. Sometimes we cling to what has already happened. And that is where chapter 4 begins. When the mind finally loosens its grip on the future, it often turns around and grips the past. Because the past feels like something we should be able to control, at least in our imagination. You can't change what happened, but the mind keeps trying to. It rewinds scenes like a film. It edits dialogue. It creates alternate endings. It returns to the same moment with the same aching thought, if only I had spoken differently. If only I'd left sooner. If only I'd been stronger. If only I had known then what I know now. Regret is one of the heaviest stones because it carries a hidden belief the past should be different. And I am the proof that it isn't. So the mind turns into a courtroom at night. It presents evidence. It builds arguments. It issues sentences. And the body responds as if the trial is real. The chest tightens. The throat closes, the belly sinks. The face tenses in a familiar shame. You might notice it even now, how quickly the body reacts to a remembered mistake. This is why regret can keep you awake longer than fear. Fear points forward. Regret points backward. And both steal the present. In Buddhist understanding, suffering is not only in what we did or what we lost. Suffering is in the relationship we keep having with it over and over right now. A memory itself is just an image, a few sounds, a feeling, but the mind takes that image and adds something sharp. This shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't be this person. I can't forgive myself. It's too late. And suddenly the past becomes a living thing sitting with you in bed. It is important to say this gently. Regret is not always wrong. Sometimes regret is the heart's intelligence. It shows you what matters. It shows you where you acted against your deeper values. It shows you where you were unconscious. It shows you the places you want to be wiser. That kind of regret has warmth in it. It has humility. It has the seed of growth. But there is another kind, one that is colder, heavier, repetitive. That kind is not teaching you, it is punishing you. It does not lead to repair, it leads to collapse. So tonight we are not trying to erase your past. We are not pretending nothing happened. We are doing something more honest. We are learning how to stop bleeding from a wound that is already closed, simply because the mind keeps picking at it. There is a Zen phrase that points to this. Do not add a second arrow. The first arrow is what happened, painful, unavoidable, human. The second arrow is the story we shoot into ourselves afterward. I am ruined. I am unworthy. I can never be okay again. The first arrow hurts. The second arrow becomes suffering. And the mind fires that second arrow at night again and again because it believes punishment will create safety. It believes if it hurts you enough, you won't make the same mistake. But pain is not the same as wisdom. Wisdom is clear. It learns. It repairs when possible. Then it releases. Punishment is foggy. It repeats. It tightens the body. It keeps you stuck in the moment you wish you could change. So the practice of chapter 4 begins with a simple acknowledgement. The past is written. Not because life is cruel, but because life is real. And fighting the written page doesn't rewrite it. It only exhausts you. Imagine your life as a book. Some chapters are beautiful, some are messy, some are painful. But the words on the earlier pages do not change because you stare at them in the dark. The only thing that changes is what you write next. And yet regret convinces the mind that if it rereads the painful page enough times, it will eventually find a secret door. That door rarely exists. What exists is this acceptance, not approval, not forgetting. Acceptance means this happened. This is part of my story, and I can meet it with kindness now. This is the beginning of making peace with what's written. So tonight, if a memory rises, a moment that makes your chest tight and your stomach sink, you can try something very gentle. Instead of arguing with the memory, speak to it like you would speak to a tired child. You can say, "I know. That hurt. I wish it had been different." Then add one more sentence, soft, steady, honest, "But it is over." Again, "But it is over." Notice what happens when you say that. Often the body releases a fraction because it hears a truth it has been waiting for. You are not denying the past, you are putting it back in its rightful place behind you. This is especially important because the mind has a habit of collapsing time. It takes something from 10 years ago and makes it feel like right now. It takes a mistake from last month and makes it feel like this moment. But the body doesn't know the difference between a real danger and a remembered one. So the mind replays and the body braced and sleep disappears. Tonight you are learning to restore time. You are teaching the nervous system that was then. This is now. And in this now you're safe enough to rest. Let your breath be the evidence. Feel the inhale arrive. Feel the exhale leave. Nothing in this breath is happening 10 years ago. Nothing in this breath is happening in that conversation. Nothing in this breath is happening in that mistake. This breath is now, and now is where your healing lives. You may still feel sadness, you may still feel tenderness, you may still feel the ache of if only, but you don't need to turn it into a verdict. Because making peace with what's written does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop using regret as a weapon against yourself. In the next part, we'll enter a story that reveals how the past becomes an echo, how one sharp moment can keep ringing, and how to let that echo fade without denying what you heard. For now, take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, release the effort of rewriting. The page is written, and tonight you are allowed to rest. Even when you've learned to set down what isn't yours, even when you've stopped replaying the day's mental stones, even when you've loosened your grip on outcomes, there can still be something that lingers in the quiet before sleep. An echo, words you wish you hadn't said, moments you wish you could undo. Choices you replay again and again with the impossible hope that thinking hard enough might change what already happened. In the old temples, there is a story about a monk sweeping the courtyard on an autumn morning. The air was cool. Leaves lay scattered like small, tired birds on the stone ground. The monk moved slowly, letting the broom gather what it could, letting the rest remain. Then, without meaning to, the broom struck a small pebble. The stone lifted into the air and tapped a piece of dried bamboo. And the sound, clear, bright, perfectly simple, rang longer than it seemed it should. It wasn't loud, but it was complete. In that instant, something in the monk opened. Not because the sound was special, but because it revealed something about time, about memory, about how the past lives inside the mind. Later, other monks asked him what had happened. How could a tiny sound lead to awakening? And the monk said very simply that the stone taught him this. The past cannot be changed, but its echo can either disturb our peace or awaken our wisdom. The sound was beautiful, he explained, not because he could hold on to it, but because he could let it finish and fade naturally. This is what we struggle with. A moment happens, then ends. But the mind keeps striking it again and again. It turns the moment into an echo that never completes itself. Maybe it's something you said to someone you love. Maybe it's a chance you didn't take because fear held you back. Maybe it's a decision you would make differently now with the wisdom you didn't have then. These memories can echo through your present, like that sound of stone against bamboo. And the question isn't whether you remember. The question is this: will the echo disturb you, or will it teach you? Buddhism looks at time in a way that can feel relieving. Reality exists only here, now, in this breath, in this room, in this moment. That conversation you regret happened in a moment that no longer exists anywhere except in memory. That missed opportunity lived in a time that has already passed. And the person you were back then when you spoke those words, when you made that choice, was operating with different information, different awareness, with different capacity than you have now. This doesn't dismiss real pain. It simply reveals something important. The suffering you feel right now isn't coming from the past event itself. It's coming from your present relationship with the memory of it, and that relationship can change. There was once a woman who carried deep regret about the last conversation she had with her mother before her mother passed away. In that final exchange, harsh words were spoken. And after the loss, the woman's mind returned to that moment again and again, as if replay could become rescue. For months she lay awake, wishing she could take it back, wishing she had been softer, wishing she had been more patient. And slowly something painful happened inside her. Every warm memory of her mother became clouded by that last scene. The love of decades became overshadowed by a single moment. One day, the woman brought a burden to a wise teacher. She spoke until her voice cracked. She confessed the words, the guilt, the shame. The teacher listened quietly with the kind of attention that does not rush to fix. And when she finished, the teacher asked one gentle question. When you remember your mother now, are you remembering your mother? Or are you remembering your guilt about that last conversation? The woman froze because she suddenly saw what regret had been doing. Her guilt had grown so loud that it was blocking her from touching the love that had always been there. The teacher continued softly. Your mother knew who you were in your heart. One difficult moment doesn't erase 30 years of love. He paused, letting the words land. But your attachment to that one moment is erasing your ability to feel the love that is still here, still real, still available to you. This is how regret often works. We think we are honoring what was lost by holding tightly to the pain. We think the guilt is proof that we cared. But sometimes the regret becomes so dominant that it drowns out what was most true. The connection, the warmth, the kindness, the ordinary love that was the foundation of the relationship. The Buddha taught that suffering doesn't come only from what happened. It comes from attachment, and one of the most exhausting attachments is wishing the past had been different. It's like trying to make a river flow backward. You can strain for hours, and the only result is exhaustion. So tonight the practice is not to forget what happened. The practice is to let the echo complete itself, to let the memory be a teacher, without letting it become a prison. Right now, if there is something in your past that still weighs on your heart, notice what happens in your body when you touch it. A tightening in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach, tension in the shoulders. These sensations are happening now. The past event is over, but your relationship to the memory is creating real experience in the present. And this is where change becomes possible. You can begin very gently to separate two things: the love and the guilt, the person and the final moment, the full story and the single scene. Just as the teacher invited the woman to remember her mother, not only her guilt, you can begin to let your own love return to the front, because love is still here and it deserves to be felt. So as you breathe tonight, imagine that memory like a sound in the air. Let it ring once truthfully, then let it fade. Not because it didn't matter, but because it has already been heard. Take a slow breath in, and on the exhale, whisper inside, "I can learn," without punishing myself. And again, softly, let the echo fade. The sound completes itself, and in that fading, space returns. And in that space, rest becomes possible. There is a point on the path where regret changes its costume. At first, it appears as replay, a mind trying to rewrite what was written. But later, it can become something quieter and harder to see, a belief that you do not deserve peace, that you must carry your past like a sentence, that rest would be too easy after what you did, that forgiveness would mean you are excusing yourself. And this is where regret stops being a teacher and becomes a prison. In the temples, the elders understood this deeply. They knew the difference between remorse and self-punishment. Remorse is clean, it is honest. It sees clearly, I acted from ignorance. I caused harm, I wish to live differently. Self-punishment is sticky. It repeats, I am bad, I am ruined, I should suffer forever. One leads to transformation, the other leads to collapse. A young monk once learned this difference in a painful way. In the main hall of his monastery stood a small statue, old beloved, worn smooth by generations of hands. It wasn't valuable because it was perfect. It was valuable because it reminded people of the path. One evening, while cleaning, the young monk lifted the statue to dust beneath it. His hands were tired. His attention drifted. The statue slipped. It hit the stone floor and broke. The sound of it was sharp, like a door slamming in the mind. The monk froze. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. Then shame rose quickly, hot and immediate. How could I be so careless? How could I break something sacred? What does this say about me? His heart raced. His stomach dropped. His hands began to shake as he gathered the broken pieces. That night he could not sleep. He saw the statue falling again and again. He imagined the elder's disappointment. He imagined himself being judged as unworthy. He wanted to confess, but even confession felt like another way to be punished. In the morning, with eyes heavy and face pale, he went to his teacher. He placed the broken pieces on the floor and bowed until his forehead touched the wood. "Master," he whispered, "I broke it. I broke the statue. I don't know what to do." The teacher looked down at the pieces quietly. Then he asked one simple question. "Are you sorry?" The monk nodded, tears rising. "Yes, master. I'm ashamed." The teacher said, "Good." The monk looked up, startled. The teacher continued gently. "Real remorse is good. It means your heart is alive. Then he paused. "But tell me," he asked, "how many nights will you spend breaking yourself as well?" The monk didn't understand at first. The teacher picked up one piece of the statue and turned it in his hands. "If you break a statue," he said, "you repair what can be repaired. You learn. You become more careful. But if you break your own spirit in the process, then you have created a second damage." The monk's breathing slowed slightly, as if something inside him was being untied. The teacher placed the piece down and said, "There is a way to bow that is healing, and a way to bow that is self-harm." He looked at the monk kindly. "Confess clearly. Repair what you can, then let the lesson settle. Do not build a home inside your shame." The monk swallowed. "But Master," he said, "if I let it go, doesn't that mean I'm taking it lightly?" The teacher shook his head. "No," he said. "Letting go is not taking it lightly. Letting go is refusing to turn regret into identity." Then the teacher told him a story from long before. In a village, a potter once made a clay jar for a family, simple, strong, meant for everyday use. The family used it to carry water for years. It sat in their home through seasons of rain and drought. One day, the jar cracked. Water seeped through a thin line near the bottom. The family was upset. They felt the jar had failed, so they brought it to the potter, angry, demanding a replacement. The potter examined the crack quietly. Then he asked, "Has this jar served you?" "Yes," the family said, "for many years." "And has it been useless since it cracked?" the potter asked. The family hesitated. "It leaks," the potter nodded. "It leaks. And yet you still carried water in it today. You still trusted it enough to bring it here." He took the jar and did something surprising. He filled the crack with resin and clay, then placed the jar back in the kiln carefully so it could harden again. When it cooled, the crack remained visible, but the jar held water. The potter returned it to the family and said, "This crack is not a verdict. It is a place where the jar learned something about the world." The family stared. The potter continued, "If you throw away everything that cracks, you will live in a world with nothing left. Everything cracks. The question is whether you learn and whether you repair." This is what the teacher wanted the young monk to understand. You can break something and still be worthy. You can regret something and still be allowed peace. Because the purpose of remorse is not to destroy you. The purpose of remorse is to wake you. Buddhism does not ask you to deny your mistakes. It asks you to meet them with wisdom. And wisdom always includes compassion, especially toward yourself. This does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means holding responsibility cleanly. Admit what happened. Repair what can be repaired. Apologize where apology is needed. Learn the lesson. Then stop striking yourself with it. Because if you keep punishing yourself, you may feel serious, but you do not become free. And freedom is what allows change to last. So tonight, if regret visits you, you can practice this gentle distinction. Ask yourself, is this remorse or is this punishment? Remorse feels clear even if it hurts. It points forward, I will live differently. Punishment feels heavy and circular. It points nowhere. If it is punishment, you can whisper, I have learned, I will repair, and I will release. Not because the past didn't matter, but because your life still matters. The statue can be repaired, the jar can be sealed, the heart can become wiser. And when you stop confusing suffering with sincerity, you create the space to rest. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, let your shame loosen its grip. Remorse can be a teacher, but you do not need to live inside it. Now, as Chapter 4 completes, we step into a gentler Chapter 1 that reveals something you may have forgotten. Stillness is not something you force. It is something you uncover. And that is where Chapter 5 begins. Now we move into a quieter teaching, one that changes everything, especially at night. Because after you've set down what isn't yours, after you've stopped replaying the day, after you've loosened your grip on outcomes, after you've made peace with what's written, the mind often asks one final question: but how do I become still? And the answer in Zen is both simple and surprising. You don't create stillness, you uncover it. Stillness is not something you build out of effort the way you build a wall. It is something already present, like silence behind noise, waiting for you to stop stirring. This is important because many people approach meditation the way they approach a problem. They try to force calm. They try to push thoughts away. They try to do it right. And when they can't, they believe they have failed. But Zen does not teach force. Zen teaches recognition. It says your mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. Some clouds are thin and bright. Some are dark and heavy. Some move quickly. Some linger. But no matter what the clouds do, the sky remains. The sky does not panic when clouds arrive. It does not chase them away. It does not punish itself for being cloudy. It simply holds them. And this is what your awareness can learn to do. There is a part of you that has been here the entire time, quietly watching. It watches your thoughts come and go. It watches emotions rise and fade. It watches the body tighten and soften. This watcher does not need to struggle. It is naturally still. You may have felt it before without naming it. In a moment of beauty when you forgot yourself. In a moment of deep sadness when everything slowed. In a moment just before sleep when thought thinned and something softer remained. That something is not a special achievement. It is your natural mind. Buddhism sometimes calls it awareness, the space in which experience appears. Zen often points to it more simply. Just this. Just seeing, just hearing, just breathing. Before the story, before the judgment, before the effort. And the reason this matters tonight is because many people try to fall asleep by doing more thinking, more planning, more fixing, but stillness appears when you stop adding. So the practice in Chapter 5 begins with a gentle shift. Instead of trying to quiet the mind, rest as the one who notices the mind. Right now, notice a thought might appear. You don't have to push it away. Just recognize a thought is here. Then another thought might appear. You don't have to follow it. Just recognize another thought is here. And between these thoughts, there is space. Even if it is small, that space is already still. This can feel subtle because the mind is loud at first. But with softness, you can begin to sense the background, the quiet that was always there. A Zen teacher once said that trying to force stillness is like trying to smooth water with your hand. The more you press, the more ripples you create. But if you remove your hand, the water settles by itself. So tonight, you don't need to smooth anything. You only need to remove the hand, remove the extra struggle, remove the tightness of I must be calm. Remove the demand that your mind behave perfectly. Just rest. in the body, in the breath, in the simple feeling of being here. This is why in many Zen halls, the instruction is not get rid of thoughts. The instruction is return to posture, return to breathing, return to sound, return to the present over and over. Not as a punishment, as a homecoming. Because each return is a reminder. You are not your thoughts, you are the sky. And the sky does not need to fix the clouds. The clouds can be there, the sky remains. If you want to practice this right now, do it gently. Feel one inhale. Feel one exhale. Notice the inhale arrives without effort. Notice the exhale leaves on its own. This is the rhythm of life already happening without your control. And this rhythm is an invitation. You can stop controlling. You can let the breath breathe you. Now listen to the sounds around you. Maybe there is silence. Maybe there is distant traffic. Maybe there is a fan. Maybe there is only the sound of your own breathing. Let those sounds come and go. Don't chase them. Just let them be part of the sky. And if a thought appears saying, "I'm not doing this right," treat that thought like another cloud. Let it drift. You don't have to obey it, because the one who notices that thought is already free. This is the great relief of Zen. You do not have to become someone else to be at peace. You only have to stop leaving the present. Stillness is not far away. It is underneath the stirring. So tonight you can begin to uncover it, not by forcing sleep, but by removing what keeps you awake. In the next part, we'll step into a story that makes this teaching vivid, a story of mountains and clouds and the discovery that what you are seeking has never been absent. For now, take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, feel yourself resting as the sky. Let the clouds pass. Long ago, a traveler came to a monastery built high in the hills. He had walked for days, carrying questions the way some people carry stones quietly, faithfully without noticing how heavy they have become. When he arrived at the gate, he bowed to the resident teacher and said, "Master, I have come to learn how to find peace. My mind is restless. I try to meditate, but my thoughts do not stop. I want stillness, but I cannot hold it." The teacher looked at him for a moment kindly, without judgment. Then he said, "Come, walk with me." They climbed a narrow path behind the monastery. The air grew thinner and cooler. Pine trees stood like silent witnesses, and ahead, a mountain rose, wide unmoving calm. Clouds drifted around its peak. Some clouds were bright and thin like breath. Some were darker, heavy with rain. Some moved quickly. Some seemed to hang as if refusing to leave. The traveler watched, and his chest tightened with a familiar frustration. He said, "Master, even the sky is not clear. The clouds cover the mountain. How can anything be still when clouds keep coming?" The teacher smiled slightly. He pointed to the mountain. "Tell me," he asked, "is the mountain disturbed by the clouds?" The traveler frowned. "No, the mountain remains." "Does the mountain chase the clouds away?" the teacher asked. "No." "Does the mountain become a cloud when clouds arrive?" the teacher continued. The traveler shook his head again. The teacher nodded. Then why, he asked softly, "When thoughts come, do you become disturbed? Why do you chase them away? Why do you become them?" The traveler stood quietly as if the question had opened a door. The teacher continued, "Most people believe they are the clouds," he said. "So when clouds appear, they panic. They think, I am anxious, I am angry, I am broken, I am failing at meditation. But the clouds are not who you are. They are what passes through you." The teacher sat on a flat stone, and the traveler sat beside him. "Look again," the teacher said. The traveler watched the mountain. Clouds covered the peak, then thinned. A gap appeared. Then another wave came. Yet the mountain did not change. It remained steady, not resisting, not grasping, not reacting. The teacher said, "Stillness is not the absence of clouds. Stillness is the mountain's refusal to move for the clouds." The traveler's breathing slowed because he realized his mistake. He had been trying to create a cloudless sky inside his head. He had been fighting thoughts as if thoughts were enemies. But the fight itself was the storm. The teacher said, "Your awareness is like this mountain." He touched his chest lightly. "Thoughts will come, feelings will come, memories will come. They are weather, but you are not weather. You are the ground," the traveler asked. "But Master, the clouds feel so real. They feel like me." The teacher nodded. "Yes," he said, "because you have been practicing identification for years." The traveler looked confused, so the teacher explained gently. "When fear arises, you say, 'I am afraid.' When sadness arises, you say, 'I am sad.' When anger arises, you say, 'I am angry.' You glue your identity to passing weather. Zen practice is learning to say, instead, fear is here, sadness is here, anger is here, and when you say it that way, something subtle happens. You return to the mountain. You stop being dragged by the clouds. This is not denial. The clouds are real. They bring rain, they bring shadow, but they are not permanent, and they are not the whole sky." The teacher looked out over the valley below. "You came here seeking stillness," he said. "But stillness has been beneath your thoughts the whole time. You just didn't know where to rest." The traveler felt tears rise not from sadness but from relief. Because it is exhausting to spend your life trying to control weather. And most people do exactly that inside their own minds. They believe peace is something they must achieve. They believe calm is a trophy for good meditators. But the teacher was revealing something kinder. Peace is not a trophy. It is your natural state, uncovered when you stop chasing. The teacher continued. When clouds come, the mountain does not ask, "How long will you stay?" It does not say, "You shouldn't be here." It simply allows. Then he said, "Allow your mind in the same way. Allow the thought to appear. Allow it to drift. Allow it to dissolve, not by forcing it away, but by refusing to climb into it." This is the central misunderstanding many people have about meditation. They think meditation is doing something to the mind. But Zen says meditation is stopping the extra doing. It is resting as the mountain. So tonight, as you lie in bed, you can practice this in the simplest possible way. When a thought appears, you don't need to answer it. Just notice a cloud. When a memory arises, you don't need to solve it. Just notice a cloud. When a fear arrives about tomorrow, you don't need to rehearse. Just notice a cloud. And then return to the mountain, the feeling of your body supported by the bed, the slow rhythm of breath, the steady presence that does not need to chase anything. To help your nervous system learn this, you can use one gentle phrase. As you breathe in, say, "Inside I am the mountain." As you breathe out, thoughts are clouds. Again, quietly, inhale, "I am the mountain." Exhale, thoughts are clouds. You don't have to force belief. Just repeat it as a direction, like pointing your mind back home. Because every time you remember the mountain, you're practicing freedom. And freedom is what allows sleep. The traveler remained with the teacher for a long time, watching clouds move like slow animals across the sky. He noticed something else. Even when clouds were thick, the mountain's presence could still be felt. The shape was there, the ground was there, so even when thoughts feel thick at night, your awareness is still here. You don't need perfect silence to rest. You only need to stop fighting the weather. In the next part, we'll take this teaching even deeper with another image, a muddy pond that becomes clear not by effort, but by being left alone. For now, take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, rest as the mountain. Let the clouds pass. There is another image Zen teachers return to when someone says, "My mind won't become clear." They don't respond with a complicated method. They offer a pond. A teacher once held up a bowl of water in front of a student and asked, "What do you see?" The student looked closely. "Nothing, it's cloudy," the teacher nodded. Then he set the bowl down and said, "Now watch what happens if we do nothing." At first, the water looked the same, milky, restless, unclear. But slowly, without effort, the sediment began to sink. Minute by minute, the water cleared. The teacher lifted the bowl again. "What do you see now?" he asked. The student's eyes softened. "It's clear." The teacher smiled. "Your mind is like this," he said. "When you keep stirring it with effort, it stays cloudy. When you stop stirring, it settles by itself. This is the teaching you need most at night, because insomnia often turns into a struggle. You notice you're still awake, and immediately the mind begins stirring. Why am I not sleeping? What's wrong with me? I have to sleep now. Tomorrow will be ruined. And each thought is a hand in the water. Each worry is a swirl. Each attempt to force rest becomes another disturbance, and the mind stays cloudy. Zen practice is learning to stop stirring, not by doing nothing in a dull way, but by releasing the extra effort that keeps the nervous system on alert. So tonight you can treat the mind like a muddy pond. If there's turbulence, you don't scold the water. You don't argue with the sediment, you simply stop touching it. And you wait gently. This is not passivity, this is trust in the natural process of settling. In many meditation halls, there is a moment that teaches this directly. A group sits in silence. At first, the silence is not peaceful. It is full of movement. Someone adjusts their posture. Someone swallows. A thought flares up, "I'm doing it wrong." The mind wants to fix the silence to make it smooth. But gradually, as no one reacts, something changes. The room becomes quieter, not because people forced quiet, but because the stirring stops. And then sometimes a small sound appears unexpected, a faint hum of distant traffic, the creak of wood, the soft breath of someone sitting nearby. And the strange thing is, the sound doesn't disturb the silence, it becomes part of it. A student once asked a teacher about this. "Master," the student said, "when I meditate, small sounds pull me away. A cough, a shifting robe, a distant noise. My mind reacts. How can I find stillness with so much happening?" The teacher answered with a question. "When you are lying in a meadow," he said, "do you demand that the wind stop? Do you demand that birds be silent?" The student shook his head. "No," the teacher said. "You allow them, and because you allow them, you can rest." Then he added something very gentle. "Stillness does not mean nothing happens. Stillness means nothing needs to be pushed away." This is the muddy pond again. Not needing the water to be empty, only needing you to stop stirring. So let's apply this in the simplest way, right here where you are. If thoughts are moving, that's okay. If emotions arise, that's okay. If sounds come and go, that's okay. Your job is not to create a perfect inner silence. Your job is to stop interfering with what is already able to settle, Tonight, practice the smallest form of non-interference. When a thought appears, don't chase it. When an emotion rises, don't explain it. When a sound arrives, don't label it good or bad. Just let everything be part of the pond and return to one steady anchor. The exhale is especially helpful here because the exhale naturally signals the body. It's safe to soften, so you can do this gently. Inhale without effort. Exhale a little slower, not forcing, just allowing the exhale to lengthen like warm water pouring out. If the mind tries to grab a thought and stir, you can whisper inside, "Not now," or even simpler, "Let it settle." Again, let it settle. Notice the difference between two approaches. Approach 1, I must stop thinking. This creates pressure, which creates more thinking. Approach 2, I will stop stirring. This creates space and the mind clears naturally. This is a profound kindness, because many people believe they must be in control in order to rest. But rest is what comes when control relaxes, and this is the deeper gift of Chapter 5. Stillness is not something you win. Stillness is what remains when you stop adding noise to the noise. So if tonight your mind feels muddy, if it feels full of sediment from the day, don't worry. That is normal. The day shakes the jaw. The night is where it settles. Your only task is to stop shaking it. Let the bed hold you. Let the breath move through you. Let the sounds come and go like ripples on the surface. And trust what the pond knows. Given time and non-interferency, clarity returns. Take one slow breath in, and as you breathe out, feel your hands leaving the water. No stirring, just settling. And as Chapter 5 comes to completion, we begin to move into the next chapter, where emotions themselves become the focus, not as enemies to fight, but as fire that can either burn or warm. That is where Chapter 6 begins. Now that you've begun to rediscover the natural stillness beneath everything, the sky behind the clouds, the clear pond beneath the stirred water, a very honest question often arises. What happens when strong emotions appear and seem to disturb that peace? What do you do when anger surges through awareness like wildfire? When grief feels so heavy it seems to press down on the very stillness you've been touching? When fear becomes intense? When sadness feels overwhelming? Or when even joy carries a desperate edge like you want it to last forever? The beautiful truth that Buddhist wisdom keeps returning to is simple. These emotions are not enemies of your peace. They are energy, and energy can be transformed. Like fire. Fire can burn down a house, or it can warm a home. The difference is not the fire itself. The difference is how skillfully it's tended. In one monastery, nestled deep in the mountains, there was a monk whose quiet responsibility was to tend a sacred fire that burned continuously in the main temple. It offered warmth through harsh winters, light through dark hours, and heat for the community's simple meals. But the monk learned something that every firekeeper learns: fire demands attention. Not anxiety, not control, but steady, wise attention. One day, a young novice asked him, "Brother, how do you keep the fire from burning too hot and consuming everything, and yet prevent it from growing so weak that it provides no warmth?" The monk smiled and gestured toward the carefully arranged logs. "I don't try to eliminate the fire's nature," he said. "Fire wants to burn. That's what makes it fire. But I can choose what fuel to give it, when to provide more air, and when to let it settle into glowing coals." The fire's energy remains the same, but how I work with that energy determines whether it serves life or destroys it. This is exactly how Buddhist practice approaches emotions. Emotions are not problems to be solved or states to be eliminated. They are energy moving through your system. The goal isn't to become emotionless. The goal is to become emotionally wise, to tend the fire in a way that creates warmth, light, and clarity, rather than damage. Most people relate to emotions in one of two unhelpful ways. The first is suppression, pushing down feelings that seem uncomfortable, inappropriate, or unspiritual. The second is identification, becoming the emotion completely, letting it drive speech and action without any conscious choice. But there is a third way, the way of the fire tender, acknowledging the energy while choosing how to work with it. This third way begins with a gentle honesty. If anger is here, you don't pretend you're peaceful. If sadness is here, you don't rush to gratitude. If fear is here, you don't force confidence. That emotional pretending exhausts the nervous system and blocks the natural processing that allows emotions to transform. True emotional courage means being honest about what is actually arising and then choosing how to work with that raw material skillfully. Because emotions, when they first arise, are like warm clay, malleable, workable, alive with potential. If you try to shape cold, hardened clay, it cracks. But if you work with it while it's still warm, it can become something both beautiful and durable. Emotions are like that warm clay. If you ignore them until they harden into resentment, bitterness, or numbness, they become much harder to work with. But if you meet them while they're still warm, still alive, you can shape them into responses that serve your highest intentions. So tonight, the practice is not get rid of your emotions. It is to tend your emotional fire. And one of the clearest places to see this is anger. Many traditions treat anger as proof of spiritual failure. But in Buddhist understanding, anger often contains information. It may be pointing to a boundary, crossed an injustice that needs addressing, or a value that feels threatened. The fire of anger isn't automatically wrong, but how you tend that fire makes all the difference. When emotion rises, you can practice what Buddhist teachers call the sacred pause. You feel the heat. You acknowledge its presence. You let it move through the body without feeding it with mental stories and without pushing it away with spiritual concepts. A pause like this is not weakness, it is skill. It is the moment the fire tender decides more air, less fuel, or let it settle into coals. And as you develop this skill, something beautiful begins to happen. When you're no longer afraid of your own emotions, you become less reactive to other people's emotional expressions. You become like a spacious hearth, able to be present with many fires without getting burned or trying to extinguish them. This is not only healing for you, it changes your relationships. People can sense when someone is comfortable with the full range of human feeling, and they naturally feel safer being authentic in that presence. So for tonight, as you prepare for rest, you can practice this gentle approach with whatever is present. If there is anxiety about tomorrow, instead of thinking it away, you can breathe with it. Acknowledge its concern and even thank it for trying to protect you. If there is sadness about today, you can let it move through you like water through a riverbed, knowing sadness is how the heart processes loss and disappointment. If there is anger, you can feel the heat while choosing not to feed it with obsessive thinking. And if there is joy, you can let it glow warmly without grasping it or demanding it last forever. Each emotion is like a visitor to your inner temple. You don't have to invite it to stay forever, but you also don't need to throw it out immediately. You can greet it, listen to what it has to tell you, offer it the warmth of conscious attention, and then let it move on naturally when its message has been delivered. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, feel your body learning this new way. Not suppression, not identification, tending. And in the next part, we'll step deeper into this chapter with a story that reveals what suppression really looks like. A student who says, "I got rid of my anger," while his hands are still shaking. There was once a meditation teacher who noticed something subtle about one of her students. On the surface, he looked like the picture of spiritual success. He sat with perfect posture. He spoke in measured tones. He rarely showed any sign of disturbance. But there was something lifeless in his presence, as if he had traded his humanity for an artificial calm. It wasn't that he seemed peaceful. It was that he seemed sealed, like a room with all the windows shut. One day during a community work period, the students were organizing tools, simple work, meant to bring mindfulness into ordinary life. Another student accidentally knocked over this man's carefully arranged tools. It wasn't malicious, just clumsy human quick. The sound of metal hitting the ground rang out through the room. Everyone paused. Most people expected anger, at least a flash of irritation. But the man simply smiled and said, "No problem at all." The words were gentle, and yet his body told a different story. His hands were shaking. His jaw was visibly clenched. The teacher approached him quietly, not to embarrass him, not to correct him in front of others, only to offer clarity. She asked very softly, "What happened to your anger?" The man answered proudly, "I got rid of it. I don't get angry anymore." The teacher looked at him with compassion, not sarcasm, not accusation, and she said kindly, "You haven't gotten rid of your anger. You've just stopped the fire from reaching the surface." Then she added something simple, almost practical. "But look at your hands, feel your jaw. The fire is still burning. It's just burning underground where it can't warm anyone. But it can still burn you from the inside." This is what suppression does. It doesn't extinguish the emotion. It drives it deeper into your system, into tension, illness, and psychological rigidity. And this is why being calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it is simply control. Sometimes it is fear of your own humanity. Sometimes it is the nervous system holding the lid down on boiling water. Zen does not ask you to become numb, because numbness is not freedom. Freedom is the ability to feel fully and respond consciously. The teacher's words point to a crucial truth in emotional practice. There are two ways anger can harm you. The obvious way is when it erupts hot, sharp, uncontrolled, burning other people, burning bridges, burning your own sense of dignity. But there is a quieter way too. When anger is denied, it doesn't disappear. It becomes subterranean, and underground fire can be dangerous precisely because you can't see it clearly. It burns in the jaw. It burns in the shoulders. It burns in the stomach. It burns in the heart as bitterness or coldness or chronic fatigue. So the practice is not to get rid of anger. The practice is to learn how to tend it, like the fire tender tends the sacred flame. To let it be honest energy, without letting it become destruction. This is why Buddhist teachers often speak about what they call the sacred pause. When anger arises, you don't immediately react, and you also don't immediately suppress. Instead, you pause, you feel the heat, You acknowledge its presence. You let it move through the body without feeding it with the mental stories and without pushing it away with spiritual concepts. In that pause, you can ask quietly, what is this anger trying to tell me? What boundary was crossed? What value feels threatened? What truth wants to be spoken with clarity instead of violence? Often when anger is met with conscious attention, it transforms naturally. The heat remains, but it becomes fuel for clear communication, appropriate boundary setting, or compassionate action toward injustice. The fire doesn't have to be extinguished. It has to be channeled. And this is especially important tonight, because in the quiet of bedtime, many people are not struggling with explosive anger. They are struggling with underground anger, the kind that was swallowed all day. The smile you forced, the "it's fine you didn't mean." The moment you abandon your own needs to keep the peace, you can feel it in the body, even if you don't name it. A clenched jaw, a tight chest, hands that won't fully relax. So right now, very gently, notice your own body. Is there any place where heat is being held? You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to turn it into a story. Just notice. And then practice the simplest form of the sacred pause. On the inhale, silently acknowledge anger is here. On the exhale, offer space. I can feel this without feeding it. Again, slowly inhale, anger is here. Exhale, I can feel this without feeding it. You are not becoming bad because anger exists. You are becoming honest. And honesty is what allows transformation. Because emotions, when met directly, have a natural lifespan. They rise, peak, and soften. But when they are pushed underground, they linger, not as a wave that passes, but as a tension that hardens. So tonight you are learning something quietly powerful. You don't need to be artificially calm. You can be real. And real emotions met with awareness become wisdom. In the next part, we'll step into another temple. Story 1 about a stream flowing through a garden and how emotions are like rapids, alive, dynamic, not meant to be eliminated, only guided so they don't damage the banks. In another temple, there was a monk who had been practicing meditation for many years, and yet something felt wrong. He didn't feel more free, he felt more numb. He came to his teacher with a quiet concern that his practice was making him less human, less able to feel deeply about anything, less touched by life. The teacher listened carefully, then led him out to the temple garden. A small stream flowed there, winding between carefully placed stones. The water moved in 2 different ways. In some places, it glided smoothly over flat stones, quiet and glassy. In other places, it struck larger rocks and turned into rapids, small waterfalls swirling white water, alive with motion. The teacher asked, "Tell me, is this stream more beautiful when it flows smoothly, or when it meets the rocks and creates rapids?" The monk watched the water for a long time. "Both have their beauty," he said, "but the rapids seem more alive, more dynamic." The teacher nodded. "Your emotions are like those rapids," he said. "They show that your heart is encountering the obstacles and opportunities of life, that you're engaged rather than detached." Then, the teacher gave him the key teaching of this chapter. The goal isn't to eliminate the rapids, it's to let them flow skillfully without damaging the banks. This is the difference between healthy detachment and emotional numbness. Healthy detachment allows you to feel emotions fully without being controlled by them. Emotional numbness tries to avoid feeling anything difficult and usually deadens your capacity for joy, love, an authentic connection as well. So the practice is not to become a calm person who never feels. The practice is to become a person who can feel and remain steady. In Buddhist language, this is skillful means. In modern language, it looks like emotional regulation, not the tight control of suppression, but the wise guidance of energy. The teacher explained that this involves 3 essential elements. First, developing the capacity to stay present with intense emotions without being overwhelmed by them and without pushing them away. Second, learning to distinguish between the raw energy of emotion and the mental stories that often amplify that energy unnecessarily. And third, cultivating the wisdom to channel emotional energy into responses that serve your deepest values, rather than your immediate impulses. Then the teacher invited the monk to work with one emotion directly. Right now, he said, think of an emotion you typically struggle with. Maybe it's anxiety that spirals. Maybe it's sadness that feels too heavy. Maybe it's anger that rises before you can catch it. Instead of thinking about how to get rid of it, the teacher said, consider what it would be like to work with it the way a fire tender works with flame, not eliminating its nature, but learning to tend it skillfully. He gave an example. Anxiety often contains the energy of care and concern. When it becomes overwhelming, the caring energy turns scattered and unproductive. But when it's channeled skillfully, it can become thoughtful preparation, mindful attention, or compassionate concern that actually helps. The energy doesn't disappear. It becomes focused, so it serves the caring that underlies it. Then the teacher offered a simple practice, one used by many Buddhist teachers for working with difficult emotions. When a strong emotion arises, instead of immediately trying to calm it or analyze it, you breathe into it. You literally send your breath toward the place in your body where you feel the emotion most intensely. Not to breathe the emotion away, but to offer the breath as spaciousness, space that can hold the emotion without being overwhelmed. And as you breathe with the emotion, you may notice it has its own rhythm, its own lifespan. Emotions like waves naturally rise, peak, and subside if they are not interfered with. When you neither suppress them nor feed them with dramatic stories, they often transform on their own, revealing wisdom or moving into softer emotional territories. And here is one of the most profound discoveries in this work. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that experiences emotion, just as you are the sky that experiences weather. Sadness moves through you, but you are not made of sadness. Anger arises in you, but you are not essentially anger. This recognition is what allows you to feel fully, without losing your center. So tonight, if emotion is present, you don't need to turn it into a problem. You can let it be like the rapids, alive, honest, moving. And you can keep the bank strong by doing something very simple. Feel the raw energy and loosen the story. Then breathe right into the place where the energy lives. Not forcing, not fixing, just making room. A slow inhale, a softer exhale, and let the rapids do what rapids do, flow. After you learn to work with emotions like fire and like a stream, another truth begins to appear quietly, honestly. Many of us are not only carrying feelings, we are carrying protection. Not the healthy kind, like locking your door at night, but the kind that lives inside the chest, like armor. It often begins in a reasonable place. You were hurt, you were disappointed, you were misunderstood, you were abandoned, betrayed, or simply worn down by life. So the heart learned a strategy. Don't feel too much. Don't trust too quickly. Don't open fully. Stay guarded so it won't happen again. And for a while that strategy works. It keeps you functional. It helps you get through the day. It helps you survive. But over time, something subtle happens. The same wall that kept pain out also keeps love out. The same protection that helped you endure also prevents you from resting, because a defended heart cannot fully relax. It is always listening for danger, always scanning tone, silence, expression, distance, always preparing for the next disappointment. And even when you finally lie down in bed, safe enough, quiet enough, the body remains on watch. This is why some people cannot sleep even when the day is over. Their mind is not only replaying conversations, their nervous system is still guarding the heart. Zen is very gentle about this. It does not shame the wall, it understands why the wall was built. But it also tells the truth. A wall can be useful until it becomes a prison. So the practice of this chapter begins with one distinction, simple but life-changing. There is a difference between being protected and being defended. Being protected is wise. It means you have boundaries. You know what you allow. You can say yes and no without guilt. You can choose what comes close. Protected feels calm. Protected feels like I can open when it is safe. I can close when it is not. I don't need to harden to be safe. Being defended, however, is different. Defended is reactive. Defended is always braced. Defended is not a boundary, it's a reflex. Defended feels like I must stay guarded at all times. If I soften, I'll be hurt. If I open, I'll lose control. Defended feels tight in the body, and you can often feel it without even thinking. A defended heart shows up as a chest that never fully loosens, shoulders slightly lifted even when resting, a jaw that holds tension by default, a subtle numbness, like you're living behind glass, difficulty receiving kindness without suspicion, and at night an inability to truly drop into sleep, because deep sleep requires surrender. And surrender feels unsafe to a defended heart. This doesn't mean you are doing anything wrong. It means your system learned a pattern, and patterns can be softened. But first, they must be seen clearly. So, tonight notice, gently, are you living with a wall you no longer need? Not a wall against obvious danger, but a wall that stays up even with people who have earned your trust. A wall that remains even when you are alone. A wall that keeps you safe from pain, but also keeps you isolated from ease. Sometimes this wall is built from fear. Sometimes it is built from exhaustion. Sometimes it is built from a quiet belief. You no longer question, if I don't protect myself, no one will. Zen does not argue with this belief. It simply invites you to look at its cost, because a heart that is always defended cannot enjoy simple moments. It cannot receive love without flinching. It cannot rest deeply, because resting deeply feels like lowering the shield. And the tragedy is this: many people are still guarding against old pain, even when the threat is no longer here. They are fighting a war that has ended. So what do? You don't tear the wall down violently. That would feel unsafe. You don't force yourself to be open. That would be another kind of pressure. Instead, you begin with a softer, wiser move. You begin to turn the wall into a gate. A wall is rigid. It blocks everything. A gate is discerning. It can open and close. A gate allows you to stay protected without defended. This is what Buddhist compassion looks like when it matures. Not naive openness, skillful openness, the kind that says I can soften and still be safe. I can be tender and still have boundaries. I can love without abandoning myself. Tonight, you can practice turning the wall into a gate in a very simple way through the body. Because the heart's defense is not only psychological, it is physical. The defense lives in the muscles, in the breath, in the posture. So try this gently. Without forcing anything, take one slow inhale. And on the exhale, soften one small area. Not everything, just one. Maybe the jaw, maybe the shoulders, maybe the belly. Just one small release. Then pause. Notice. Did anything bad happen? Often the nervous system learns safety not from ideas but from small experiments of softness. One breath, one unclenching. One moment where you realize I can relax a little and I am still okay. This is how the gate is built. Not with theory, with lived experience. And when the gate begins to exist, something beautiful becomes possible. You can meet life again, not with a hard heart, with a wise heart. Because the goal is not to remove protection. The goal is to remove unnecessary defense, the kind that keeps you from resting, receiving, and healing. If this is touching something tender in you tonight, be gentle. Walls were built for a reason. Thank them quietly for trying to protect you. Then whisper something simple, like a promise I can be safe. And soft. Again, slowly I can be safe. And soft. Let the words land in the chest, not as a demand but as an invitation. In the next part, we'll step into a story that makes this distinction vivid, a story about a garden wall, and the difference between building a barrier that keeps everything out and creating a boundary that still lets beauty in. There's a story told in Zen circles about a master gardener who inherited a magnificent garden surrounded by a high stone wall. The wall wasn't built out of cruelty or paranoia. It was built out of love, out of a desire to protect something beautiful. The previous owner had built it after deer repeatedly wandered in and destroyed his prized flowers. And for years the wall worked. The garden stayed safe. Nothing trampled the beds. Nothing ate the new blossoms. Nothing disturbed the careful order. When the new gardener arrived, he expected to find a thriving sanctuary. Instead, he found something unsettling. Yes, the flowers were protected, but they were also weak. Their stems looked pale. Their petals lacked color. Some blooms opened late, as if hesitant. The garden was alive, but it didn't feel vital. It felt like it had been living with its breath held. The gardener walked slowly through the rows, kneeling beside the soil, touching the leaves with careful attention. Then he noticed the deeper problem. The wall had done more than keep the deer out. It had also kept out everything that helped the garden become strong. The butterflies that pollinated the flowers, the birds that carried seeds for new growth, even the gentle rains that nourished the soil. The garden was safe, but it was slowly dying from isolation. The gardener stood at the edge of the wall and felt the weight of a choice. He could keep the wall exactly as it was, high, strong, impenetrable, and watch the garden wither in perfect safety. Or he could begin the slow, courageous work of changing the wall, lowering it, gradually opening it carefully, and trusting that the garden's natural vitality could handle what challenges might come. And this, the story says, is the choice your heart faces every day. Because many of us have built walls the same way that owner built his. Not because we wanted to shut out love, but because we were trying to prevent pain. A betrayal that changed you, a heartbreak that made you cautious. A moment when you opened honestly and someone handled your tenderness roughly. So you protected yourself. You learned to stay polite but not fully present. To be helpful but not fully known. To keep your truest feelings behind stone. And for a while the wall works. It keeps the deer out. It keeps rejection out. It keeps disappointment out. It keeps the sharp edges of people from reaching the most tender parts of you. But in the quiet, especially at night, you may notice what it also keeps out. It keeps out nourishment, the feeling of being truly seen, the soft relief of being understood, the kind of intimacy that helps the nervous system finally unclench. The wall keeps out the butterflies, and without butterflies, nothing blooms the way it was meant to bloom. So Zen never says tear down your walls. Be vulnerable with everyone. That would be reckless. Instead, Zen points toward a wiser balance, opening not naively, not dramatically, but gradually, with discernment. A heart that never risks being hurt is also a heart that never fully lives. And here, Buddhist teaching offers a powerful image. The Buddha spoke of having a heart like the sky, vast enough to hold all experiences, pleasant and painful, without being damaged by any of them. This doesn't mean telling everyone everything. It means developing an inner spaciousness so your heart can remain open even when life brings difficult weather. The gardener understood this. He didn't demolish the wall in one day. He began with small changes, careful ones. He removed a few stones in one section so the breeze could move through. He lowered another section just enough for butterflies to enter. He created openings that acted like a boundary, not a prison. The garden did not become instantly perfect. At first, the gardener worried he had made a mistake, but then something beautiful began to happen. A butterfly landed where none had landed in years. A bird perched on the wall and dropped a seed. A gentle rain arrived and soaked deeper into the soil. And over time, the garden changed. The plants grew sturdier. The colors returned. The blooms opened with confidence, not because nothing ever threatened them again, but because they were no longer living in isolation. They were living in relationship with the world, and this is what your heart wants, not danger, relationship, not exposure, connection, not recklessness, a gate. So, tonight as you rest, you can ask yourself softly, where have my walls protected me? And where have they begun to imprison me? And then without pushing, try the gentlest experiment. Imagine one small section of your inner wall becoming a gate, not wide open, just open enough for nourishment to enter. You don't have to do this with people first. You can do it within yourself. You can let kindness enter your own chest. You can let softness touch the part that's been bracing. And you can whisper a sentence that carries the spirit of the garden. I can be safe, and still let in what nourishes me. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine the first butterfly finding its way into your heart. Not to disturb you, to help you bloom. In the same tradition that teaches the garden wall, there is another story, quieter, more intimate, about what happens when the heart closes after betrayal. A young monk once lived in a community where trust was simple. He believed in people. He believed in practice. He believed that sincerity would naturally be met with sincerity. And because of that, he was open. Not naive in a childish way, but open in the way a clean lake is open, reflecting what is placed before it. One day he confided something personal to another monk. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't scandalous, it was simply, Tender, one of those truths we don't share casually, because it touches a vulnerable part of the self. He shared it with care and he shared it with trust. But later he discovered that the other monk had repeated it, not gently, not privately. Repeated it in a way that turned his tenderness into gossip. When the young monk realized what had happened, something in him snapped shut. Not with anger, with a colder feeling I was foolish to trust. I won't do that again. I won't give anyone a doorway into me. From the outside, he still looked calm. He still bowed. He still chanted. He still smiled when required. But inside the gate had become a wall. He stopped sharing. He stopped asking for help. He stopped letting people near his heart. And slowly, a subtle kind of loneliness formed. Not because he was alone, but because he was unreachable. At night, he would lie down exhausted, but his body would not fully soften. It was as if his nervous system had decided, "We must stay guarded now, even in sleep." After some time, his teacher noticed the change, not because the monk did anything wrong, but because something essential was missing from his presence. His teacher invited him to walk. They moved through a quiet corridor of the temple, where lantern light made soft pools on the floor. The teacher didn't begin with accusation. He began with kindness. "You have been practicing well," he said gently. The young monk stayed silent. The teacher stopped near the courtyard and asked, almost casually, "Tell me, and when you sit these days, do you feel your heart?" The young monk swallowed. "I feel protected," he said. The teacher nodded. Protected. He waited. Then he asked another question. Protected from what? The young monk's throat tightened. He didn't want to speak. But the question was too precise. From being hurt again, he admitted. The teacher did not shame him. He didn't say, "You should be beyond that." He didn't demand forgiveness. He simply said, "I understand." Then he asked the question that changed everything. When you were betrayed, did you offer loving kindness to yourself? The young monk looked confused. He had heard of loving kindness metta, the practice of wishing beings well. He had recited phrases for others. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. But he had never thought about offering those words inwardly at the very moment he needed them most. He answered honestly, "No, master, I didn't." The teacher nodded softly as if that was exactly the point. "Most people don't," he said. "When pain arrives, they turn against themselves. They blame themselves for trusting. They harden themselves to prevent future pain." He paused. "And then they call that hardness wisdom." The young monk felt tears gather, not because he wanted to cry, but because something true was being seen. The teacher continued, "Betrayal hurts because you were open, and openness is not a flaw. What needs guidance is not your capacity to love, but your capacity to care for yourself when love is met with harm." The teacher turned slightly so the monk could see his face clearly. "Do you know what happens when a child falls?" he asked. The monk shook his head. "The child cries," the teacher said, "not only from pain, but from shock. And what helps them most is not a lecture, it is comfort." Then the teacher asked gently, "Where was your comfort when you were hurt?" The young monk's chest ached with recognition, because what he had done instead was punish himself. "You should have known better. You were foolish. Don't be that open again." And that punishment had become his wall. So the teacher offered him a simple practice, not dramatic, not complicated. Tonight, he said when you lie down, place one hand on your chest. The monk nodded. Feel the warmth of your hand. The teacher continued. Feel the rise and fall of breathing beneath it. And say quietly, as if speaking to someone you love, this hurt. I'm here. I will not abandon you. Cheat. The young monk's breath trembled. The teacher added, this is how a wall becomes a gate again. Not by forcing trust, not by pretending you weren't hurt, but by learning that you can be hurt and still be held. This is the missing step for many gentle hearts. They try to reopen to others without first reopening to themselves. But if you cannot offer tenderness inwardly, the nervous system does not feel safe enough to open outwardly. So tonight, this chapter gives you a new kind of boundary, an inner one. Not the boundary of stone, but the boundary of care. It says, even if someone disappoints me, I will not turn against myself. Even if I am hurt, I will not abandon my own heart. Even if trust breaks, I can still be kind to me. This is not self-indulgence. It is stability. It is the ground that allows real openness to return. Because a heart that can soothe itself does not need to become a fortress. It can become a gate opening, wisely closing when needed without living in permanent defense. So if you've been carrying an old betrayal or a moment that made you shut down, try the practice now as you rest. Place one gentle hand on the chest if that feels comfortable. Take a slow breath in, and on the exhale, whisper inwardly, this hurt. Another slow breath in, and on the exhale, I'm here. And one more softly, I will not abandon you. Let those words settle like warm light. Because the heart does not reopen through force, it reopens through safety, and safety begins within. Now as Chapter 7 completes, we turn toward a wider horizon, toward change itself and the deep art of surrender. Chapter 8 begins with a simple truth. Life moves like a river, and peace comes when you stop resisting the flow. By now you've set down many kinds of weight. The emotions that weren't yours to carry. The thoughts you replayed like stones in your pocket. The outcomes you tried to control. The past you tried to rewrite. And you've touched the stillness that was waiting beneath it all. And yet, there is one more place the mind grips often without realizing it. It grips change, because change is where certainty disappears. Even when life is calm, the mind quietly asks, how long will this last? What if it shifts? What if something I rely on is taken away? And when life is already difficult, the mind adds another layer. Why did this have to change? Why can't it go back? Why can't I make it stay the way it was? This is where so much suffering is born. Not from change itself, but from the refusal to let change move. Zen and Buddhism don't pretend change is easy. They simply tell the truth. Everything moves. The body changes, relationships evolve, plans unravel, seasons turn. The world rearranges itself while we are still trying to hold yesterday in our hands. So, Chapter 8 is not about loving change. It's about learning how to stop fighting what cannot be stopped and discovering the quiet power that appears when you flow. There's an image used in the teachings that says it more clearly than any explanation. You are like a river. A river doesn't reach the sea by arguing with the landscape. It doesn't demand that the mountains move out of its way. It doesn't panic when the path curves. It moves. Sometimes it slows, sometimes it narrows, sometimes it spreads wide and gentle, sometimes it becomes rapids. But it keeps going, not through force, but through persistence, flexibility, and an unwavering commitment to its direction, even when it has to take unexpected turns. And when life shifts, when a plan breaks, when a relationship changes, when a door closes, you face the same choice a river faces. Do you fight reality until you exhaust yourself, or do you ask quietly, how do I flow skillfully with what is actually happening? Not what should be happening, not what I wish were happening, what is happening. This doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you approve. It means you stop wasting your life pushing against what is already here. And to teach this, there is a story of an elderly tea master, famous throughout her region for the extraordinary quality of her ceremonies. Students traveled great distances to learn from her. They expected strict instruction, precise movements, exact timing rules that could be memorized like a script. They wanted certainty. They wanted a formula that would guarantee beauty. But when they arrived, she offered something unexpected. She said gently, "Every tea ceremony is different." At first, the students were confused. They thought mastery meant repeating perfection, doing the same thing every time with flawless control. But the tea master continued, "Every moment is different. The temperature of the water varies slightly. The humidity changes how the leaves unfold. Each guest brings a different kind of energy into the room. Some arrive restless, some arrive quiet, some arrive grieving, some arrive joyful. If you perform the ceremony as a rigid script, you will miss the living reality of this moment." And then she said the key line, "Mastery is not identical repetition. A mastery is responding perfectly to what this moment requires." In other words, the ceremony isn't a performance you impose on life. It's a relationship with life. The way you pour, the way you pause, the way you speak, the way you move, all of it arises from attention, from listening, from being so present that you don't need to cling to a predetermined outcome. This teaching points toward what the old wisdom calls action that arises naturally from present circumstances. Not passivity, not laziness, but a kind of intelligent harmony. Like a master musician who doesn't force the music, they respond to the room, the instrument, the audience, the breath of the moment. Not by losing direction, but by meeting reality as it is. And this is what you are practicing in your own life. When circumstances shift unexpectedly, you can rage against the change, or you can flow. When relationships evolve beyond what feels comfortable, you can demand they return to familiar patterns, or you can explore what new forms of connection might be possible. When your body ages, when your career changes direction, when life dismantles plans you thought were permanent, you can tighten into resistance, or you can soften into skill. The river doesn't abandon its direction because the landscape changes. It simply adjusts, and your peace becomes possible when you stop confusing rigidity with strength. Rigidity breaks, flexibility endures. So tonight here in the dark, if there is something changing in your life, something you've been resisting, something you've been wishing you could freeze in place, you don't have to solve it right now. You only have to loosen your grip, just a little. Because sleep doesn't come to a clenched body. Sleep comes when the nervous system feels, "I don't have to fight tonight." So try this gently. Bring to mind the situation you've been resisting. Now, instead of asking, "How do I control this?" ask a softer question. How do I flow skillfully with what is here? Not forever, just for the next breath, just for tonight. And as you breathe, imagine yourself as water. Water doesn't deny rocks. It doesn't pretend obstacles aren't there. It simply meets them and finds the most graceful path around, over, or through. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, soften one small place where you've been gripping change. Let the river move. In the next part, we'll continue this chapter with more images of adaptation, the kind of strength that bends without breaking, and the quiet courage of meeting life as it is not as you demanded it to be. To trust the flow of life, you don't have to become passive. You simply stop trying to force reality into a rigid script. Instead of pushing yourself through a strict schedule, no matter how depleted you feel, you begin to work with your natural rhythms. Instead of demanding that conversations follow predetermined agendas, you become curious about where honest dialogue wants to go. Instead of manufacturing specific outcomes, you start collaborating with whatever possibilities are actually emerging. This shift asks you to redefine what strength really is. Most people were taught the strength means rigidity, the ability to stay in the same position no matter what pressure life applies. But nature tells a different story. Observe bamboo during a typhoon. When the storm arrives, the strongest trees are not always the ones that stand stiff and proud. Often the strongest are the ones that bend so far they nearly touch the ground. And then when the storm passes, they rise back up, still rooted, still alive. They survive not because they're unmovable, but because they're flexible while remaining anchored in something deeper. This is what flow looks like in a human being. Not collapse, not giving up, bending without breaking. And beneath your changing circumstances, there is something in you that can stay rooted. Because jobs may come and go, relationships may evolve or end. Your body will age and eventually die. But the awareness experiencing all of this, the consciousness that witnessed your childhood, is witnessing this moment too. It remains strangely unchanged. When you learn to rest in that deeper stability, the surface changes become less threatening, and sometimes even more interesting. A farmer once understood this in a way that made his neighbors shake their heads. He inherited land that experienced severe droughts every few years. When dry seasons came, his neighbors reacted the way most minds react to change, complaining, panicking, acting surprised as if nature had broken a promise. But the farmer studied the patterns. He learned which crops thrived in different conditions. He developed multiple water conservation strategies. He prepared not with anxiety but with intelligence. So when the droughts came, he was ready. And when abundant rains returned, he celebrated without becoming attached to the temporary abundance. Weather changes, he would say simply. My job is to farm skillfully, regardless of which weather shows up. This is a profound teaching. Change isn't an interruption to a normal life. Change is normal life. Expecting stability is like expecting the ocean to stop having waves. Once you accept that flux is the fundamental nature of existence, something relaxes in the nervous system. Because you stop being surprised by change and you start developing the skills to navigate it with grace. One of those skills is learning to recognize transitions early before they become crises. Rivers don't suddenly decide to change course. They gradually find new channels as landscapes shift beneath them, and your life changes the same way. Relationships show stress before they break. Bodies develop minor symptoms before serious illness. Career dissatisfaction builds slowly before exploding into a turning point. When you're flowing with life rather than fighting it, you become more sensitive to these early signals. You notice when your energy feels misaligned with your commitments. You recognize when patterns that once served you have become constraining. You feel when a relationship needs attention before it becomes troubled. This awareness allows for small course corrections, gentle adjustments that prevent major disruptions. But then the mind asks the hard question, what about when major disruptions come anyway? When change arrives uninvited, unwelcome, and unavoidable. Even then, the river's wisdom applies. Water doesn't become bitter when it encounters boulders. It doesn't waste energy resenting obstacles or demanding they move. Instead, it finds the path of least resistance while maintaining its essential nature and ultimate direction. There is a story about a meditation teacher who lost her voice completely due to a rare neurological condition. For months, she grieved. Her voice had been her primary way of transmitting wisdom. Her students expected her to retire, to retreat from teaching since speaking had become impossible. And at first, that seemed reasonable. But then something deeper in her began to move. She discovered new forms of transmission. Her written words carried deeper precision because they required more careful crafting. Her silent presence during group meditation became more powerful because students had to attune to subtler forms of guidance. What seemed like the end of her teaching career became its transformation into something she never could have planned, and yet something that served her deeper purpose even more effectively. This is one of the most profound aspects of trusting the flow. What appears to be loss often creates space for an unexpected form of fulfillment. The river blocked by a landslide doesn't disappear. It finds new channels, sometimes creating waterfalls and pools that never existed before the obstruction. Trusting flow doesn't mean abandoning your dreams. Rivers have direction. They move toward the sea, but they don't insist on traveling in straight lines. And you can live the same way. You can maintain clear intentions about where you want your life to head, while remaining flexible about the route you take to get there. This balance becomes especially important during major transitions, changing careers, ending relationships, moving to a new place, facing illness, crossing thresholds you never asked for. In these periods, the temptation is usually one of two extremes: control every detail or drift with no direction at all. Flowing wisdom suggests a third option. Hold your intention lightly and stay alert to the opportunities and guidance that emerge along the way. So tonight, as you rest, notice if there is any part of your life where you've been swimming upstream, expending enormous energy, trying to force outcomes or resist changes that want to happen naturally. Maybe a relationship is trying to evolve, but you're holding it in an outdated form. Maybe your body is asking for different rhythms, but you're demanding the pace of a younger version of yourself. Maybe your career is calling for transformation, but you're clinging to familiar security even though it no longer nourishes you. Flowing with these movements doesn't require dramatic action tonight. It only requires honesty and softness, like bamboo in the storm. Bend without breaking. Stay rooted in what's deeper than circumstances, and trust that after the storm you can rise again. Take one slow breath in, and as you breathe out, let your grip loosen. Not forever, just enough to sleep. And in the next part, we'll go even deeper into surrender, into the kind of letting go that feels like stepping into darkness and discovering you were supported all along. There is a deeper layer of trust that Chapter 8 points toward. Not the trust that says, things will work out the way I want, but the trust that says even if I don't know, I can still be here. Because sometimes life doesn't just change. Sometimes life removes the map. Sometimes the path ahead becomes dark, unclear, unfamiliar, unplanned, and the mind begins to panic, not because something is definitely wrong, but because it cannot see. This is where surrender becomes real. Not surrender as defeat. Surrender is a soft intelligence, the kind that stops fighting what cannot be forced and starts listening for the next true step. There is an old story about a weaver who lived at the edge of a village. She wasn't famous for wealth or beauty. She was known for her cloth, strong, simple, honest, woven in patterns so subtle they seemed to carry quiet music. For years, she wove in a room with a single window, letting daylight fall across the loom. Then one season storms came. Darkness settled over the land for days at a time. The village grew anxious, crops suffered, travelers stopped coming, and in her small room, the weaver's window became almost useless, only gray light barely enough to see the threads. At first, she fought it. She moved lamps closer. She leaned forward until her eyes burned. She tried to keep weaving the way she always had. But the harder she strained, the more mistakes she made. Threads crossed wrongly. Tension became uneven. Her body tightened. Her breath shortened. One night, exhausted, she stopped and simply sat beside the loom. And in that stillness, she realized something. She didn't need to see the entire cloth to weave the next thread. She only needed to feel what was in her hands. So she began again, not by forcing her eyes, but by softening into sensation. She let her fingers learn the pattern. She listened to the faint sound of thread sliding. She sensed the tension instead of staring at it. And slowly the cloth returned steady, beautiful, alive. Not because the darkness left, but because she stopped demanding that life be bright before she could move. This is deep surrender. It is the willingness to proceed without full certainty, guided by presence instead of control. Many people think surrender means doing nothing. But the weaver shows something different. Surrender means stopping the fight with the conditions and meeting the moment with the tools that are actually available. Sometimes the tool is thought and planning, but often the tool is something simpler: attention, breath, feeling, listening. There is another image for this one that appears in everyday life. A chef, trained for many years, doesn't cook by following rules rigidly. Yes, there are recipes, but mastery isn't just memorizing steps. Mastery is tasting. The chef tastes the broth and knows what it needs: more salt, more time, less heat. Not because they can predict everything in advance, but because they are present with what is actually happening in the pot. This is the same movement the spiritual path asks of you. To stop trying to do life correctly from a mental recipe, and to begin tasting the moment you are in. What does this moment need? Maybe it needs rest, maybe it needs honesty, maybe it needs a boundary, maybe it needs patience, maybe it needs one small action and then stillness. But you can't know that if you're always running ahead into the future. Surrender brings you back to the pot. Back to the loom, back to the breath. There is a quiet shift here from doing to being. Doing says I must fix, I must manage, I must control. Being says I can meet what is here. Doing can be useful. But when doing becomes a constant identity, the nervous system never stands down. Being is what allows the body to soften, and sleep is one of the deepest forms of being. This chapter also offers a surprising teaching about beauty. Many people try to build a perfect garden in their life, neatly trimmed, predictable, safe. But often, the most beautiful gardens are partly wild. They have order and they have spontaneity. They have structure and they allow nature to speak. When you fight life too hard, you may create control, but you often lose vitality. When you surrender wisely, you may lose some predictability, but you regain aliveness. That aliveness is not chaos. It is relationship. It is the river learning new channels. It is the bamboo bending. It is the weaver learning to feel the thread. So tonight, if you are in a season where you don't know what comes next, where the future feels dark, where your mind keeps demanding clarity before it allows you peace, practice the weaver's lesson. You don't have to see the whole path. You only have to feel the next thread. And the next thread tonight is simple. Let the body settle. Let the breath soften. Let the day end. This is not giving up on your life. This is trusting that rest is part of wisdom. You cannot weave well with exhausted hands. You cannot taste clearly with a flooded mind. You cannot meet change with grace if you refuse to refill. So let surrender become gentle and practical, not a dramatic leap, a quiet release. Try this now. As you inhale, feel the body receiving air without effort. As you exhale, let the shoulders drop a fraction and say, inwardly, slow, soft, true. I don't need to know everything tonight. Again on the exhale, I don't need to know everything tonight. Then one more sentence, like a hand placed on the heart. I am allowed to rest in the dark, because the dark is not always danger. Sometimes it is simply the place where the nervous system stops performing and returns to its natural state. The weaver did not wait for perfect light to live her life. She learned to trust her hands. And you don't need a perfect future to sleep. You only need this moment to be safe enough, and it is. Now, take one slow breath in, and as you breathe out, let yourself stop doing. Just for tonight. Let yourself be. In the next part, we'll begin to gather everything you heard, not as effort, not as a project, but as a gentle return to stillness, as the night carries you towards sleep. And now, you don't need to hold any of this. Not as information, not as a lesson you must remember, not as something you have to do correctly. Let it be like a soft lantern on the edge of a path, enough light to feel where you are, and nothing more. Tonight, you've walked through many kinds of weight. You've seen how easy it is to carry what isn't yours, to absorb the emotions of others, until your own chest feels crowded. You've seen the mind's habit of replay, how one moment at a river can be carried for hours, how a bell keeps ringing when we keep striking it, how the pond stays cloudy when we keep stirring. You've felt how tightly the mind can grip outcomes, how it demands certainty, how it labels too early, and how the simplest wisdom is sometimes maybe, so maybe not. You've touched the ache of regret, the mind's longing to rewrite what was written, and you've begun to sense the difference between remorse that wakes you and punishment that only drains you. Then quietly, you return to what was always here, the sky behind the clouds, the mountain beneath the weather, the clear water beneath the stirred sediment. And finally, you softened into change itself, like a river finding its way, like bamboo bending in the storm, like a weaver trusting her hands in the dark. If there is one thread running through all of it, it is this. Peace is not something you force. It is what remains when you stop gripping. So tonight, You don't need to carry the teachings forward like a task. You can let them sink gently into you, the way rain sinks into earth without effort. And if you've been listening with that part of you that always tries to get it right, you can let that part rest too. Because even the desire to improve can become another kind of tension. Sometimes we cling to the path the way we cling to outcomes. Am I doing it right? Am I progressing? Have I let go enough? But the deepest letting go is this: letting go of the need to measure. Let go of the need to achieve stillness. Let go of the need to be a different person than you are tonight. You don't have to become worthy of rest. You are allowed to rest because you are alive. And in this moment, your only job is simple: to be here, long enough for being here to become sleep. So bring your attention back to the body gently. Feel the weight of your head. Feel the softness of the pillow beneath it. Feel your shoulders and let them fall as if the day is finally leaving them. Feel your hands and let the fingers loosen as if you're no longer gripping anything at all. Feel the slow rise of the inhale and the quiet, natural leave-in of the exhale. Nothing to add, nothing to fix, just the breath, doing what it has always done. If thoughts come, let them come. You don't need to chase them away. You don't need to follow them. A thought can pass through like a cloud. A feeling can move through like weather, and you can remain as the sky. Sometimes it helps to remember one simple phrase. On the inhale, you can whisper inwardly, "Here." On the exhale now, again very softly, inhale. Here, exhale now. And if the mind tries to pull you into tomorrow, into planning, into rehearsing, you can offer it one gentle answer. Not tonight. Not as resistance, as kindness. Because tonight is for return. Tonight is for release. The world can wait at the door until morning. Let the room be simple. Let the night do what the night does. You may notice that the more you stop trying to fall asleep, the easier sleep becomes. Because sleep isn't something you do. Sleep is something that happens when the system feels safe enough to let go. So keep giving your body that signal, again and again through softness. A slower exhale, a relaxed jaw, a shoulder dropping, a belly unclenching, small releases, little gates opening. And if you drift even for a moment, that's perfect. If you forget the words, that's perfect. If you wake again, that's perfect too. You can always return, not to the whole teaching, but to one breath, one exhale, one small letting go. Thank you for spending this night here with me in the long night. And if this quiet space has helped you even a little, if you'd like more nights like this waiting for you, you can subscribe to The Long Night so you can come back whenever you need a softer mind and a calmer heart. Now, you don't have to do anything else. Let the stories fade. Let the day dissolve. Let the mind settle like clear water. And as you breathe out, feel yourself being carried. Not by effort, but by the gentle gravity of rest. Good night.